And we're live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting year where we are rebooting the year. But before we do, we are going backwards, looking back at all the things we covered. So, Brandon, why don't you tell us exactly what's in store for us tonight?
All right. So, we're doing something different this year. We're doing a year-end review, which is kind of fun in its own way. And how we're going to do it is we're going to just see what the main crew here, and really and truly, we've got the main crew. We've got one other that mostly comes on with us, but he's not here tonight. But see how the main crew rates how we've done in films. And the way we're going to do this is based on tiers. We're going to go through each film. I'm going to do a brief introduction to it. We're going to try and remember who introduced the film. And then we're going to go one at a time, give a brief opinion on it, and then give it a rating. So the ratings are as follows. At the very bottom of the list, they say, I wish I never watched it the first time. Or films that probably Sallow would have been one that. So if we did 2022, Sallow would probably have been that way for me. Will likely never watch again. I had a couple films last year that probably would rank that as well. It was okay, which is our kind of like, yeah, it's all right. Nothing that's like really hits you as great, but nothing that really hits you as bad. It was a solid watch, which means that you felt like it was a pretty good movie. And then one of the best, reserved for your favorites of the year. Once we have all the
favorites of the year, or are we like really trying to think of like this is one of the best of all?
I'd say one of the best from the year of what we've watched.
Okay.
But above what you would consider more than just a solid watch, it would be, even better than that.
Okay.
And then we're going to add up all four ratings and divide by 4. And then that will give us, after rounding down, that'll give us where the tier will be. And I'll move it around based on everybody's rating. And I'll start us off as a good example of all this.
Okay.
So let me see this. Is it still showing as stretched out on your end, or did it squat up?
Squat up.
I mean, does it look pretty stretched out on y'all's screen?
No, not really. Looks pretty good.
Okay. So,
okay. Well, I like the horizontal one better personally because you can see more. But was it stretched when you did? Yeah, that doesn't really look stretched.
All right. Well, we'll just go with what we got.
Okay.
All right. So we are starting with Crossroads, which was the very first one of the year. This was a film I think that Forrest brought up. I could be wrong, or was it Dave? One of y'all two brought it up. And it's a film about this guy, Daniel, played by the Karate Kid himself, who runs into this blues player and takes him to this place he wanted to rendezvous. And he learns about how the devil had made an offer to make him the best musician out there, and always about learning the blues. Now, to me, it was a classic watch. It was great watching it again. I would say for me, I would give it a solid watch because I would watch it again, and I really enjoy it. Don't know how much of that enjoyment is because of nostalgia coloring it for me, but I still really enjoyed the film. So we'll go with Jake. Your impressions and your rating.
Well, yeah, it was enjoyable. It was I seem to some of these I'm going to be stretching to remember, to be honest.
If you don't remember it, you just go on that basic feeling you had.
Well, that one, I remember that it was kind of a mixed bag for me, but that I basically did enjoy it. and I was glad I saw it. And I would say I could probably say it was a really solid watch.
All right. So that's another 4. Boom. All right. So, Tammy.
I really actually enjoyed it. I would definitely say it would be a solid one.
All right.
I
So
mean,
far.
I like things with music, and I just like the whole. I like the whole concept and everything. I thought it was pretty cool.
Okay.
Well, Dave, are you up? Are you with us?
I'm on the iPad. Pad. I'm still trying to.
Oh, hey, Dustin.
There we go.
But let's
Hey,
do.
guys.
You're just in time for the first rating.
We're doing Crossroads, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I thought it was okay. I did like the battle in the end. I like the fact that it has a story about the blues. But yeah, I'm just gonna put it in the okay. Okay, it wasn't the best, wasn't the worst.
All right.
But
So
that
Dustin,
ending was pretty good.
what we're doing is we're just going through each of the films. If you've seen the film, whether watching it for the show or otherwise, you're welcome to give a brief opinion about it, and then to give it a rating from 1 to 5. 1 being, I wish I never watched it, and 5 being one of the best. But you'd be, of course, welcome to share your thoughts on Crossroads.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
go
okay with my thoughts on
remember that.
Crossroads. It was just okay.
Okay. All right, Dustin?
I don't think I remember that one.
Well, and again, if you don't, that's okay. We just push that one out and we do the rating based on how many who have. So dividing that by 4. So it comes out to, okay, a solid watch.
Okay.
All right. So we're moving on. So our next film of the year, and I know this one definitely was Forrest that recommended this one, which is the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Now, the Blues Brothers is a classic. I mean, to me.
They're on a mission from God.
Yes.
That's the
Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, traveling to try and get the band back together again. Pursued by police and everyone everywhere. I mean, this is a classic film. I would have put this as one of the best, regardless of seeing it for this channel. And seeing it for this channel did not change my mind on that one. So that is my rating for that. So we'll just keep the order here. So Jake, brief summary of your thoughts and rating.
Well, Blues Brothers is a classic film. Again, solid music. It's quite entertaining. I hated it the first time I saw it, but in subsequent viewings, I feel like I got it a lot better than I did that first time. I'm kind of torn on this one because, again, it's like, what's going to be the cutoff for one of the best? Like, I'm trying to figure how best to place that cutoff point, because Blues Brothers honestly would be really close to that cutoff point for me. If I was talking movies overall, then I would just say it's a really solid watch. But looking at the selections for the year, I'm just going to say it's a really solid watch, but it's kind of debatable.
All right. So, Tammy, what are your thoughts on Blues Brothers?
I agree with everything you said so far. It's just the music, and it's a classic. The cast is just awesome. I think I'll put it as one of the best.
All right. So, Dave. Let's see. You still with us, Dave?
Oh, there's no doubt about it that the Blues Brothers is one of the best.
All right. Anything else on yours?
Oh, the simple fact that I live in Milwaukee and the chase happened on the bridge that no longer goes nowhere was involved in it.
They finished it.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, how about you, Dustin? What are your thoughts on Blues Brothers, and where would you rate it?
I think I missed that one because I know I have seen it at some point in the past. I just have absolutely no memory of it whatsoever.
All right. Well, then we will rank it. All right. That one actually holds up as a 5. I decided to, instead of rank down, I'll basically, because it's at points, if it's above a 0.5, it's up. If it's below a 0.5, it's down.
Makes sense.
So, all right. Well, I guess next is, I know I selected this.
Mm-hmm.
It was Blues Month. I remember that now. It was a Blues
Right.
Month.
And it was a very strange selection for that one. But
So I picked Ernest Goes to Camp because of the song that he sings.
yeah.
This one really is heavy on the sentiment for me because it was one of my favorite movies as a child.
Oh, yeah.
My father always loved the Turtle Paratroopers, and he's no longer with us. So I always think fondly on that. So on a personal note, I would put it as one of the best, but I also know that it is not one of the best overall. It's probably my favorite Ernest film. So, you know what? You only live once. I'll make it one of the best. Y'all can bring it back down. So, Jake.
Well, I'm going to largely agree with you. In terms of the quality of the film, I would say it's a solid watch, but not more so because of entertainment value than because of actual production value. But in terms of personal value, this is one of my top rated films on this list. So I'll go with one of the best.
All right. So Dave. Not Dave, sorry, Tammy.
It was enjoyable.
Which movie now?
Oh, sorry, I called you wrong, Dave. It was Tammy's turn.
But you'll be next.
It was enjoyable and everything. It was fun, but I mean, I rate it as okay.
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 All right. Now, Dave. Dave?
Let's see.
Oh, sorry. Ernest Goes
We
to
are
Camp.
going Ernest Goes to Camp.
Yep. Sorry, I need to bring it down to here. So far.
I would have to say it was just okay.
All right.
Okay.
3.
I'm not a fan of Ernest. Not entirely.
Oh, hey, if you're not a fan of Ernest, okay, it's pretty good. How about you, Dustin? Where would you rank Ernest Goes to Camp?
I thought it was pretty good. I was really happy with it. I think I'd probably put it in solid watch because I actually remember seeing it.
Okay.
And also, it was just fun. It was a fun movie, so I enjoyed it a lot. So I mean, you could absolutely do way worse. So.
All right. Well, with that, it actually came out as a round number.
Right.
So it's actually a definite solid watch for that.
Nice.
So, does anybody remember who did Lilo and Stitch?
That was mine.
It was yours. Okay.
Yeah.
So Lilo and Stitch, of course, is this movie about this little alien.
Mm-hmm. who happens to be blue, which I think is how that one got in the Blues Month.
Yep. And it's kind of fun. It's this it's Disney being creative, and it was one of the first non-fairy tale films they did in an original format, which I thought was really cool. I was very happy with it. I'm not sure I would put it as one of the best that I've ever seen, but it's one that I really like. So I would say it's a solid watch for me. All right, Jake, your thoughts on Lilo?
I will say, while it wasn't maybe not a blues movie, it did fit with the theme, as did Ernest. We had a theme going all month long of really great soundtracks, and it definitely had that. And I will say, this is one of the Disney films, in fact, I would probably be most love the soundtrack for. In terms of the movie, I would say it would be on the lower end of being a really solid watch, but I could still consider it a solid watch.
Okay. Tammy.
I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I had never seen it before. I heard about it, but never seen it. And at first, when David was telling me about it, I was like, but I actually had a lot of fun with it. So I'll put it as a solid.
All right. So how about you, Dave? What are your thoughts on Lilo and Stitch?
Lilo and Stitch is probably one of the best.
All right.
All right.
I like Lilo. He's kind of cute.
He was one of George's favorite characters. Stitch was. Well, how about you, Dustin? Did you remember Lilo and Stitch?
It's a hard movie to forget. It's it's like a well-known classic, so I think you kind of have to give it a higher rating. I mean, of course it's a good movie too. That's like the only reason I would put it higher. But I mean, it's like that for a reason. So I would put it in one of the best.
All right.
The only place it can really go. I mean, I'm trying not to kiss its butt too much.
So with that, well, apparently Jake and Maya's really solid dragged it down to really solid.
Wait, did you not like it? What the?
Hey, really solid means we really liked it.
Yeah. I thought it was good, but not one of the best.
Riot.
So speaking of another one that was interesting, and this was one that Tammy picked, which I was very surprised because I thought I was one of the only people who watched this film, was My Blue Heaven.
Yeah.
The film with Steve Martin and Rick Moranis, of all people. The late, well, I was going to say the late Rick Moranis. He's still alive, but he doesn't do anything, so I might as well say late Rick Moranis.
Close enough.
As far as his acting career is concerned.
Apologies to Rick Moranis if he's listening.
But it was, to me, I love the film. It's probably one of my favorites from childhood. I really enjoy it. Do I think it's one of the best? No. But do I think it's a solid watch? Is it something I would watch over and over again and enjoy? Yes. So I will put it there. How about you, Jake? What are your thoughts?
Well, this was my first time seeing it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't give it a higher rating based on just the one watch, but it was definitely a really solid watch.
Okay. And you, Tammy?
Well, of course, since I picked it, I really enjoyed it. But it's not. I mean, yes, I could definitely watch it more than once and everything, but it's not one of my favorites. But it's definitely a solid watch. I always have fun watching it.
Yeah, I think it's more of a fun watch than best ever type watch.
Yeah.
How about you, Dave?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. My Blue Heaven was not my favorite movie. Like Rick Moranis in the role. I guess in a sense I didn't mind Steve Martin in the role that he was, but I'm not a huge Steve Martin fan. So it's just I don't know what it was, but his oddball humor just didn't click with me in certain things. But it doesn't mean that he's not a good actor or a comedian. But I would say that this movie was just okay for me.
All right, just okay.
Would I watch it again? I don't know. If it was on TV, I'd watch it, but I won't go out of my way to go pick it up and put it in my collection.
That's pretty much how just okay would be defined. So I will agree with you on your definition, definitely. How about you, Dustin? Do you remember this one?
I think I missed this one. 'Cause I don't remember seeing a Rick Moranis thing.
It's definitely worth at least one watch, I think.
Is this one you ever saw before? It's like basically Steve Martin plays a mobster who goes into hiding. It's a comedy from the same basic premise as The Goodfellas, just a comedy version.
I've never seen either of these, actually. I've never seen Goodfellas.
Well, with that, then, it's a 3.75, so that would put it up to a solid watch.
Okay.
Okay, this next one was definitely Forrest's pick, which is the Super Mario Brothers movie. And no, I'm not talking about the 2023 one. I am talking about the original live-action Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, this
was the Super Mario Brothers, if I'm remembering correctly. The new one has the word movie in it.
So, to me, I'm very conflicted. It's an interesting movie. I mean, I really like Bob Hoskins, and I thought it was an entertaining movie, so it did its job. And I have a love of bad movies, so that plays into that, but I know it's not a good movie. So it's always going to be teetering on the edge of okay and a solid watch. But considering that I do enjoy having it in my collection and I do take it out to want to watch it from time to time, I guess I will put it as a solid watch because of that. How about you, Jake?
Well, I'm a little conflicted because your rating system isn't really, it's not worded in a way to give the perfect rating for a movie like this. I would not just say it's okay, because to me that just says it's meh, like I could take it or leave it, but it definitely wasn't a really solid watch. The best way I've described it since our reviewing it is that if you're watching it as a Mario Brothers adaptation, or let's just say as an adaptation, it sucks royally. But as a sort of dystopian sci-fi movie, it's pretty good. It's enjoyable. So I guess given the options, I'll have to go with it was okay. But so I'll go with that.
All right. And let me get that recorded. All right, Tammy.
It was fun, it's not something I'd like run out to go watch again or whatever, but it was fun. So
I remember
I'd probably just put it as okay.
I remember you liking Yoshi.
Well, what about you?
Fine, but
yeah. Well, it's okay. Seems that you could like a piece of it.
I'll put it as okay, though. I mean, it was fun.
Well, how about you, Dave? What are your thoughts on on Super Mario Brothers
I'm actually going to put it down as a solid.
as a
Film.
solid?
As a solid film because at the time that it came out, and for fans of the Super Mario Brothers, yeah, it sucked. But that being said, years later, watching it as an adult without all that hatred surrounding it, John Leguizamo was pretty darn good as Luigi, I thought. And Bob Haskins wasn't bad in the role either. And to be honest, the guy who played King Koopa, Dennis Hopper, he was in his prime. So to me, they had like the main cast, right, for the most part. And, it wasn't, I think it's an underrated movie. Let's put it that way.
Right.
I think that's good. All right. So, well, let's see. Did I say that? Hold on. It was a 4.
No, Dustin has
3. Hold on. I'm trying to make sure I've got added up what I've already got up.
Oh, okay.
So a 4, and a 3, and a 3. So 6 plus 8 is 14. So yes, I've got it. All right. So Dustin, your thoughts?
Even though it doesn't make any real sense, I like the first Super Mario movie. Like, honestly, for a really long time, before I was really present on the internet, I always thought it was fine. And then much later in life, I found out everybody hated it. And I was like, wow, really? I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, yeah, it made no sense, but it's kind of a cool story.
Plus,
in
retrospect, get away
from those. Now that we have the new one in retrospect, it's like, okay, yeah, this is pretty bullshit. But I think, especially knowing about the production, I think we could have gotten something a lot worse.
Oh yeah. The production stories for this movie.
I mean, come on. When they start swinging the Goombas in the elevator, come on. That was awesome.
It was pretty funny. I enjoyed that.
So what would you rate it, Dustin?
I would say solid.
All right.
Okay.
And then divide it by this.
That's going to be solid.
Yep. It is a solid by a hair, but yes, a solid watch.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're on to one that I was really surprised we'd never covered it on the channel before. Give me a second. I am changing hands because my arthritis is acting up in my hands, so I am checking here. But I'll talk about this real quick. I don't have a control over the mouse just for the moment. The Monty Python and the Holy Grail will always be one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm glad we finally decided to do it, but it was probably because it was me that put it up that we decided. But
it would have happened eventually, yes.
But to me, it's just one of the classics of all time. One of my favorite movies of all time, and I just accidentally put that movie out of order. What movie was it that I threw out of order? Well, I'll get to it eventually. Oh, that's the St. Francisville Experiment. Okay. Which goes right behind Black Swan. There we go.
Yeah.
But yes, to me, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, one of the best. I don't care when it comes to any movies. It's one of the best comedies of all time for me. Real easy for me to put that as that rating. It's just, I watch it, I laugh all the time with it.
Oh, yeah.
Even today. If I put it in, I know I'd laugh at it. So, yes, one of the best. Jacob.
I would probably put Holy Grail as the funniest comedy of all time. It is friggin' hilarious. And I just love the movie. And it is very much if I want just an old familiar kind of comfort film, it definitely fits the bill. So easily that's going to be one of the best for me.
I was gonna say, so that's wish you'd never seen it. Yes. All right.
I bet other people probably wish I never seen it, but
Tammy, what are your thoughts on Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Oh, it's definitely going to be a solid one for me because it's something that I know that my dad really enjoyed too, and you know I have fun watching it with him. So
How about you, Dave?
Oh, hands down, this is the probably the best film on the list.
Boy.
So bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. Here's one.
all right.
All right, so I got that. Well, Dustin, I know you've seen this one because I remember your response from this on the video.
It has some good jokes, but overall, I was just kind of blah on it. I mean, oh man, everybody's gonna be so mad at me. I think I would probably put that in the "we'll likely never watch again."
Oh wow!
I saw it; it didn't impress me, or whatever. I mean, I'm between that and it was okay.
Well, let's see how that adds up. I think it'll still be at least a solid watch.
Probably, but
It's still a solid watch.
okay.
All right.
It's like I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, and it's like, oh, that one was pretty.
Well, my opinion may differ on some people's as well as we go.
We'll have a couple that are going to be weirdly out of whack. That's for sure.
So, First Night, which I know was Debbie's pick.
Was his?
Debbie's, I thought. It was Debbie's pick. Not Debbie, sorry, Tammy's pick. Sorry, I was New Year's. It was Debbie, and now we got Tammy. It's Tammy's pick, and retelling of the tale of King Arthur, as we see a lot of times. I admit, when I first this would have been a good one for the Second Chances month for me because I hated it the first time I watched it, and I warmed to it somewhat this time around. And because of that, I will say that it's okay. I might watch it again one day, which is more than I would have said prior. Yes. So I may watch it again one day, which, like I said, that's much better than I originally. Originally, I probably would have put it in would likely never watch again. So I warmed to it a little bit.
Okay.
All right, Jacob.
See, I had the opposite reaction. The first time I saw it, I loved it. And it's always had a bit of a nice nostalgia for me. On an objective level, honestly, this one for me is closer to It Was Okay. But the nostalgia is there, so I can go with it's a really solid watch.
Okay. Zoop. And 4. Boom. All right. So, Tammy, your thoughts?
oh, it's always been one of my favorites ever since I watched it the first time. So, I just like the whole. I liked everything about it. So, the favorites.
So one of the best, huh?
Yes.
All right. So let me put that up there.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, your thoughts?
Now, I love stories about King Arthur. That being said, this film was just okay.
All right.
Partially because I actually read the original story of the. I actually read the Les Morts d'Arthur, and also I read the story of the Knights of the Round Table.
This one really did stray from the source material. I'll admit.
Yeah, it strayed away from the source material. If I remember correctly, the Round Table was actually given as a present, partial in dowry, to King Arthur during the marriage thing. She did have a dowry at that point in time, according to the stories, of course. And not only that, but 100 knights were sent along with. At least that's the way the story goes. So, and that was not what happened here. So, and I don't think they have ever really, truly gone with the full source material when it comes to King Arthur.
Oh, they've never been fully accurate to the source material. But they've come closer than this. I remember my mother used to joke with me that says, well, the movie I thought was always the closest to the source material was the musical Camelot. But with that being said, well, Dustin, do you remember First Night, and what is your thoughts?
I don't think I saw that one. What was it about again?
It was Sean Connery and God, who played Lancelot?
Richard
that
Gere.
was Richard Gere.
And Richard Gere. It was a love story between Lancelot and Guinevere, and their kind of betrayal of Arthur, while at the same time trying to help him, and then of course the attack on Arthur from one of the knights that turned against him.
Don't remember that.
All right, then let's see. That holds up as a solid watch.
Makes sense.
We've done pretty good so far.
Yeah.
So
now it's time for everyone to screw it up, I'm sure.
Well, it's definitely one of your picks, Jake.
Yes, this was my birthday pick.
So Miller's Crossing, I've always had a bit of an odd spot for because I don't mind most Coen Brothers films, but I could never remember it. Every time I watch it, I would blank it out for some reason.
Because nothing happens.
And I still have it blanked out for the most part. I kind of remember that scene in the woods, but it's kind of just like, so the movie never sticks with me for very long.
It's a gangster drama set during the Prohibition era and featuring the Irish mob.
I know what it's I know what it's about.
Well, for the audience, I hope.
Yeah.
The thing that I'll remember about that movie is the policemen switching sides.
Oh, yeah.
So for a mob movie, it was all right. I'm not going to say I would never watch it again because I probably will. I would just need an excuse. So I could only really give it an okay.
Okay.
I can't really put it above that. If it stuck with me more, maybe, but I've watched it 4 times and I still have a hard time even holding it to my head.
I'm in the same boat as you, Brandon, so I'm going to say the same.
Okay.
Dave's stepping in early with his vote.
Okay. He just couldn't wait to let us know his burning apathy for the film.
So, Jake, you need to unskew it and put it as one of the best.
As anyone who listens to this channel knows, I am a huge fan of the Brothers Coen, and I have made a tradition of putting forward one of their films each year as my birthday pick. And I will not rate Miller's Crossing as my favorite Coen Brothers film, but on their overall list, it is probably number 6 or 7 for me. It is on my overall film a list of gangster films, which I also am a big fan of gangster films. It's probably 4 or 5 on that list. So I would say absolutely this is not just one of the best of the year. This is probably my second favorite film on the list total. So yeah, definitely one of the best.
All right.
And one of the best scores ever written.
So, Tammy, your thoughts?
I didn't really get into it that much. I'm sorry. But so, yeah, I probably won't watch it again.
All right.
Okay.
Let's see here. And then finally, Dustin.
What was supposed to happen to that movie? Because I know I saw it. It was just Well, I started with the joke. It's a thing where nothing happens, and it's
It kind of.
kind of wasn't joking. Sorry.
I'm honestly not going to dispute that because it's a character film much more than it is a film about plot. And it's mostly about Gabriel Byrne's character doing what he can to survive. And yeah, plot-wise, there isn't a whole lot.
Well, Gabriel Byrne is definitely younger in this movie, that's for sure. Especially compared to when he was in End of Days. So, which both him and Arnold Schwarzenegger looked like they were a little ragged around the gills in that movie. The fact that he was an enforcer for a different faction, and then he ended up switching sides in the end.
Basically, he ends up playing the different factions against each other, just in a very complicated way to help his main employer. But it's really, there is a lot of complex plot going on, but it's like in terms of big terms of this, it's not a traditional Hollywood film or a traditional gangster film.
So how would you rank it based on your thoughts, Dustin?
Never watch again.
Okay. So that's that. And
we probably have our first okay movie of the year.
Yeah, actually, it's solidly.
I may watch it again if it was on TV, but and I do own it, but I will probably not intentionally put it in.
I mean, I'll watch it again eventually, I'm sure, but not likely in the near future.
If I get an opportunity, I went last week to see Fargo for the first time on the big screen, which was great. If I get an opportunity to see this on the big screen, I'm there, but I don't know if that'll happen soon.
I want to get Tammy into the series.
Actually, as far as Coen Brothers movies go, it is the one that holds the least in my mind next to Blood Simple. Those two are the ones that I have a hard time keeping a tangible hold on.
Good times. Well, Blood Simple will probably be a choice within the next couple of years.
So now we're going into our monster movie month, where we had 4 monster movies. I cannot remember who chose what, but we had the original 1930s Dracula with Bela Lugosi.
Mm-hmm.
We had 3 classics and one that's pretty much a classic, but from the 90s. So
yeah, I know I'm the one that put up the 99 Mummy. I want to say Kroll was the one that did the other Mummy. I really can't remember who did the other 2.
I did the other Mummy.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes. And then Kroll did the Dracula.
Oh, okay.
I think I did Invisible Man.
You might have. I think all 3 of those were submitted by several people.
Yeah, I think we had people who, and that's the other problem, was it was doubled up for suggestions. So, let's just start with Dracula. I mean, it's the Bela Lugosi one. Mm-hmm. It was probably the first time we got to see Dracula on the screen because Nosferatu had to do it loosely because they couldn't get the rights to it. And, but this one actually had the rights. Mm-hmm. It also kind of took a lot of liberties, but I would say that this was probably as far as film importance, I would consider it one of the best out of importance. Mm-hmm. But as far as the film itself and my personal enjoyment of the film, I will put it as a solid watch because I will watch it again ever so often. Mm-hmm. I think it's an amazing film, great music, very interesting acting and portrayals that really defined how Dracula was not only portrayed, but just how Dracula is seen in the eyes of people for years to come. So, I mean, I can't really discount that. And the fact it was a good film on top of it, definitely solid. almost one of the best, but it's not one I think that I could just that could hold that high. So how about you, Jacob?
Well, as again, in terms of importance, this may be arguably the most important film on the list. It's certainly one of them. But in terms of my personal enjoyment, I'm hit or miss on this one. So this time around, I had trouble focusing on it. I had trouble getting into it. But I've watched it in the past where I very much enjoyed it. So I guess it's one of those ones that I kind of have to be in the right mood to fully enjoy. And I hesitate to give it a really solid watch. But I guess the importance of it, I'm going to bump it up a notch and call it a really solid watch.
And it's like if you think you can get it to a 3.51 rating.
Right. Right.
So how about you, Tammy? What are your thoughts on the original Dracula?
I think it's one of the best because I love my Dracula movies, and like you were saying, it kind of like started an era, So, yep.
Hey, this was the movie that started like the Marvel universe, So, I mean,
yes, directly.
Face it, you've got the best of crossovers, like within these months. They were doing it before Marvel did, so
yeah,
Marvel was just attacking it the Universal way. So, as far as monster movies go, I think this is one of the best movies on the list so far, just because it was influential overall. It didn't even influence the first Brazilian film in their cinematic history. So, that being said, I think it is one of the most pivotal films in the monster universe.
Okay.
So, Dustin, what are your thoughts on the original Dracula with Bela Lugosi?
It's pretty good, although it does feel pretty slow by today's standards, even though it's actually really slick. It's something that I recognize its historical significance, and it is a lot better than you'd expect it to be for something from like the beginning of filmmaking.
Especially cleaned up.
And it cleans up really nice. Like, damn.
In 1931.
It's kind of hard to judge it because I want to do between and it was okay and it was really solid, because it's one of those movies where I feel like I have to kind of be in the mood for it. You know what I mean? It's like I don't feel like I could just like slap it on and like have a great time by default. It's like, yeah, let's watch Dracula, but you have to sit and pay attention to really enjoy it, because it did. I watched it on my own a year or two ago, and it did feel somewhat slow just in comparison to other stuff I was watching. So I think I'm going to have to go with. I think I'll give it some extra points and go with really solid.
All right.
Even though I would normally put it more towards it was okay.
I want to say that will actually.
Quick note, Dustin, you kind of had a slip saying at the beginning of filmmaking, because this definitely wasn't that far back, but it was one of the first major talkies.
I was going to say talkies films.
This was like in the first 2 or 3 years that they had sound in film. So that's
basically what I meant. Because I mean, we do have things that come before that, like the silent film era. A lot of stuff has been lost, and really kind of it feels more like the beginning of Hollywood, like in the 30s. It's like, okay, now film has sound. Now we can do like more advanced effects. Now people are out there watching movies at a higher rate. Like that's kind of what I had in mind. But I see your point. And
I think this is considered. I think this is considered one of, if not the first horror film in the sound era. So it's definitely huge there.
It very well might be. That sounds right to me.
Yep.
Well, the math puts this just over to where Blues Brothers
Oh.
actually has a company for.
All right.
So we're actually going to hit a lot of these classic films because it was 3 classics in a row. And we're going with the original Invisible Man. Now, oddly enough, though this one does not strike me as important as Dracula, it's still an important film, but nowhere near as important as the 31 Dracula. I thought this film was far more entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
This was probably the first time I had seen this one all the way through, and probably the only one of these films that I thought had some genuinely unnerving parts, which surprised me. When he's sitting there and unwrapping his head and he's laughing maniacally as he is like showing like the nothing there, it actually, though not scary, it definitely unnerved me a bit because the acting quality in this was actually quite good, especially for the time.
Oh, Claude Rains, he's definitely got a theatricalness about him. So, especially if you have ever seen him in the Phantom of the, I think he was in a version of Phantom of the Opera. But yeah,
taking this into perspective for the whole of what we've watched this year, I will have to give this as one of the best of what we've seen this year, because it was one that I hit like this, and I was just totally surprised by how much I liked it. It was really good. So with that being said, that's all I have to say about that. How about you, Jacob?
I'm going to agree that it was a very entertaining film, and yeah, Claude Rains' performance was quite memorable. This was the one out of the bunch of the monster ones I was least familiar with because it was my first time ever seeing it. I would definitely give it a really solid watch.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I like all the classics, and I've got that Universal set or whatever, and so I've seen the film more than once and really enjoyed it. And for me, I'd have to put it as one of the best.
All right. 5. There we go. All right. How about you, Dave?
I would have to put this as one of the best too. As far as first go, I think they hit all the right monster notes on the first movies that they did of each of the 6 monsters, in their Universal Unisphere. But I would call it one of the best, but it's in between being a solid film and the best for me, because I do think that for a first Invisible Man movie, it was pretty darn good.
So kind of a little bit over 4.5, like a 4.55 or something.
Yeah,
just enough.
Would I rewatch it? Yes, full-heartedly. It would definitely be in the category of, if I watch the Universal monster movies, I'm going to watch them all in a row,
Well, how about you, Dustin? What are your thoughts on The Invisible Man?
I thought that was one of the better Universal Monsters movies. I was pretty happy with it. So I would say one of the best, if not really solid. Like, because it does feel a little draggy at times, but it does kind of make up for it. It ends kind of abruptly too, so it has a lot of implied mayhem. It's pretty. It's interesting. But yeah, let's go with one of the best actually, because Claude Rains is really good in that. Like the scene everybody remembers from him just stripping the bandages off the hotel. It's like, I'll show you. And just like the taunting, it's like when he's clearly like not there, but they fix that with like a voiceover. Like that was kind of a fun. It's like you can see the strings now, but it's like, okay, that works,
Hey, it's definitely peak special effects for the time.
Mm-hmm.
1930s, geez. But I think that's I'll have to do the math on that one. I think. Yeah. So, but we then went with the Karloff version of The Mummy. Now, this film had a special significance for us as Inside Movies Galore, because with the coverage of The Mummy, we finally finished the coverage of all the original Universal monster movies, because we covered Creature from the Black Lagoon and The Mummy. I mean, not The Mummy, and The Wolfman. I want to say in one of either, I think 2021 or 2022. I can't. No, actually, The Creature from the Black Lagoon was the first one we covered.
Creature, that was before my time.
Yeah,
So
that was one that Dane put forward, and we had a lot of discussion. So, but on the channel, we've covered all of them. Technically, Dave could find them all and put them in a playlist if he wanted.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've so that was kind of a cool milestone. I've always liked Karloff's The Mummy. I thought it was very well done. It definitely subverted expectations. I watched it after I watched The Mummy that we're going to be talking about right after this.
Mm-hmm.
So my surprise factor was definitely lowered. It has a tendency to be draggy at times because it's a lot less horrifying than the others. But it's still an amazing film. I would put this one as a really solid watch for me. I think it's really well done, and definitely a clear inspiration for the Mummy movie we're going to be covering. But do I think it's a as clear an inspiration as, say, Dracula? No. I mean, Mummy was handled very differently even within the Mummy series. So that's all I've got to say about that. But
I would agree with you. The Mummy is an excellent film. It's very solid. Karloff's performance is quite enjoyable. I definitely call it a really solid watch.
If we were doing a sequels one, I think the sequel to this one and the sequel to Frankenstein were both better films than the original. But it's rare that I would say that. But I mean, Bride of Frankenstein.
I have to say, I am a very hard fan of the sequels more than I am of this particular Mummy film. I chose this film so that we could definitely cover your new Mummy. So,
well, since you're talking about it, Dave, why don't you go ahead and give your rating on it?
Well, I'm going to have to say that it is a solid film. I mean, it definitely sets up the way that the Universal wanted to go with it, at least at this point in time. It had some interesting dream sequences in it. It had an interesting way of showing a different version of a mummy, not the one with like wrapped wrappings or whatnot. You actually see like a skin-like substance to it. You know, they definitely did advance in makeup in department, at least in this particular film series.
They got the death stare down, if anything.
Yeah, definitely. And you wouldn't have had that stare if not for Dracula. So, but in any case, solid film, one of a kind. But I'm also a fan of the sequels, and I think that they were definitely better. If you watch all four of those sequels like in a row, they're fucking awesome. I like out of all the monster movies, I think the Mummy series is the strongest. So,
and they definitely go. It's one of the few series where they clearly go in a different direction than the original does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. How about you, Tammy? What are your thoughts on the Karloff mummy?
I really liked it. I mean, I do think it drags a bit, but I like I said, I like all the old ones, so um, it's not necessarily one of my very favorites, but definitely would watch it again. So um, what's yeah, not favorite, but the other one,
So solid watch. Solid watch.
solid one, yeah.
All right. So Dustin, what are your thoughts on the Karloff mummy?
Well, I guess I'm gonna kind of break this again here. I thought it was so when I first saw the Universal Monsters movies, it was off of that Blu-ray set from a few years ago, like the 8-film Essentials collection, and I watched them basically all in a row. And I think The Mummy was the one I felt the most like, oh, okay, that was an entry. It didn't really pop out at me all that much. I mean, I did like how The Mummy is just like a dude who looks a little dry. I mean, like that was a good use of like a time gap for having him not really show up in the bandages for very long. To the point where it kind of made me wonder where that trope came from, because he's in the bandages for like what, one scene at the very beginning.
It's those later films. It's those sequels that really brings back the
It
bandage.
really ram that home, huh?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, the sequels go in a very different direction.
It did make the 90s Mummy films make a lot more sense with a couple of like the seemingly random things they did in those. So I did appreciate that. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like exciting in my opinion. So I would call it solid. Just for, I mean, it didn't impress me or make me remember a lot, but it wasn't like a bad time.
So speaking of a bad time, actually that's a bad segue because I didn't have a bad time with this one.
So that was a solid watch then, right?
Yeah, that was another one I didn't have to do the math.
Yeah.
Everybody voted the same.
It seemed that way.
So now we're into the Brendan Fraser mummy, which was Jake's pick.
Yep.
But it works because we were out of the original Universal Monster picks, so I guess it was good to have that. And this is one that I had a hard time with when I first saw it, because I first saw it in theaters. And that thing where the scarab burrows into the guy's skin just really didn't sit with me well when I was first seeing it. And I had that original reaction because I'd never seen the original Mummy. And I was like, this makes no sense. Why isn't the Mummy in his bandages the whole time? But it makes more sense, of course, after seeing the original Mummy years later. But this one's a solid one. It's one of those that kind of has a lot of Indiana Jones vibes to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's enjoyable as a film overall. I wouldn't say it's one of the best, but definitely a solid one. One that I'm glad to have in my collection and will definitely return to again and again. So it's a good one.
Okay.
All right, Jake.
I will agree with that general assessment. The Indiana Jones comparison, it's not quite on the same level, but it is kind of that style of sort of action, adventure, humor. I actually came to this one really backwards because I saw The Mummy Returns and then The Mummy, and then I saw the original Mummy long after I'd seen those two. And I always remember the review for The Mummy Returns. It's one of the few reviews that I remember because the way Ebert described The Rock it cracked me up. And I had seen that one in theaters, and I would not have gone to see it. Some people were going, and I went, and I'm like, wow, this was fun. And it didn't hurt that the main characters had great chemistry. Rachel Weisz was so unbelievably attractive at that point in time. I had a lot going that got me excited about this series. And going back and rewatching it, it holds up. It's a fun movie. So I would say it's a really solid watch.
Okay. Tammy.
I think I'd have to agree with just about everything everybody else said on it, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I think it's a solid watch.
All right. Dave.
I'm going to go one step further. I actually really enjoyed this movie when it came out. I really enjoy it every time I see it. I think this was the first time that Universal was trying to reboot their monster series, and this was a solid, more than solid. I actually think it is one of their best monster reboots. In fact, I think it is the best monster reboot that they have, and they haven't been able to capture exactly the same vibe as the original monster movies as they did with the Mummy, which is why I think that the Mummy series is the most important series in the monster film universe in the Universal Hemisphere. So this one is probably the best reboot that they have on the board, and I'm sorry, Tom Cruise, but that was impossible.
Well,
but yeah, I have a lot of high praise for this one.
well, Dustin, what about your thoughts on the Brendan Fraser Mummy movie?
I'd go with one of the best because it's a movie that I'm always down for. Like if it's on TV, like I'll watch, and I'm near a TV with TV, like I'll watch it. Like it's pretty great. Like I can't think of any bad things to say about it really. Some of the callbacks to the first Mummy that I caught after having seen the original Mummy, where he's he's pretending to be, oh, I am the prince, blah, and he's got like that mask on. I was like, oh, that's where the mask came from. It's from the original.
I think that seeing the original Mummy improves the experience for the Brendan Fraser one, and
Exactly.
seeing the Brendan Fraser one improves the experience for the original one. So I think they kind of help each other.
They do play off of each other surprisingly well for movies with so much like time between them.
Right.
So that one comes out as a 4.4, so it drags it down to solid, but still. Speaking of some solid films, we had our animation April, and we started with Forrest's favorite film, Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Was that Forrest's pick?
Was it? I think it was.
I thought he was the one who did Batman.
I thought he did Batman, but I swear he did this one too.
He did Batman. Somebody chose this one.
You sure that wasn't you, Brandon? No, you put in Ninja Scroll to make.
I put in Ninja Scroll. And Dave did Black Cauldron, so I know Tammy didn't.
No,
Maybe it was Kroll. I don't know.
Could have been.
Could have been Kroll.
Beavis and Butthead Do America was one of my father's favorites. I don't like Beavis and Butthead. I'm not gonna lie. I never liked Beavis and Butthead. I hated them in the 90s, and I hate them now. But this film has a seriously good soundtrack, and it has that damn joke with the nuns in the confessional, where he's going, "Hit yourself, do it harder," and I still laugh at that. So I will say it was okay. I mean, Love Roller Coaster, I will play over and over again. This movie, not so much.
For me, I never was a big Beavis and Butthead fan myself. I always thought they were just kind of stupid, which they are. They are the epitome of stupid. But I didn't appreciate dumb humor the way I do now. And most of Mike Judge's later output I've loved. So it's given me another viewpoint for this movie. And coming back to it after many, 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 many years. I never really saw the show, but I had seen the movie years ago. I appreciated it a lot more than I thought I was going to. But I still wonder if calling it a really solid watch would be giving it too much praise. I'm going to go with it was okay, but on the higher end of that rating.
It's more like a 3.49.
Something like 3.47.
All right. So, Tammy, your thoughts?
I didn't watch it. They have no intention of watching it.
All right. So, Dave.
That was easy.
Well, I know I can't exactly excuse their stupidity, but there's something about Beavis and Butthead in certain moments that I just while watching it, I had a friend of 20 years that I had to let go years ago. Him and I would watch it, and we'd laugh our asses off at certain moments, and just how stupid they get is hilarious sometimes to me. But as stupid as the stupid does, they got a movie, and this was it, and it was okay. I mean, it wasn't something phenomenal, but they ran with it. It was successful at the time for, I believe, the Beavis and Butthead fans, and we got a sequel out of it. I guess years later. So,
Yeah,
because they do the universe next. But that being said, it's a movie. Will I watch it again? Yeah. Will I go out of my way to see it? No. But I have some nostalgia for it. It's okay. I mean, it's nothing grand, nothing fantastic, but it's a humor that only gets to some people, you know.
Well, how about you, Dustin?
So I actually really like it. Like I didn't understand like the dumb humor thing when I was younger, and like Beavis and Butthead was a more like live thing. Like I didn't see this until many years after it was made. Like I had read Ebert's review where he was like, this isn't too bad, and I just never really gave it a whole lot of the other thought. And one of my first CDs was this compilation thing that Rob Zombie did, Past, Present, and Future, and I think either from that on that CD or while looking up stuff about that CD, I found the White Zombie song from the desert sequence. And so whenever I think of this movie, I always think of the Trippin' in the Desert song. And I think I maybe give it a little higher scores because I have such positive memories with it. But in terms of just a satire, well, maybe that's the wrong word. In terms of just like a movie where it's just these two idiots who have no idea what anything is what's going on around them, and they get involved in some what would be for like a regular movie, like a huge important plot line. They just kind of bumble their way through it, and I enjoy like just the stupid adventures they have. So I would put that up there with like really solid, at least.
Well,
In defense of Beavis and Butthead, though, during the interval of commercials or whatnot, they did do MTV videos, and this was a continuation of the straight MTV show that used to be on. It's just they cut it down to like whatever 5-minute music video they wanted to advertise at the time, and it broadcasted music the music industry.
Unfortunately,
In between, they would literally just play that music video, and people would talk about it the next fucking week.
unfortunately, it's made merchandising of physical releases of the show
Oh, really?
highly untenable. But yeah,
Though there are projects that are under the table, getting this one and Daria together in the original format.
okay,
But with that being said, the math puts this at
yep,
Miller's Crossing level.
yay!
Two films I'm sure you didn't think to see together.
Most people wouldn't. Although I will admit, if they did a double bill of these two movies at the Bird, I would go see it on principle.
So, we went to a different. You know what's weird is I'm probably going to be saying the same thing about this one, but differently.
Huh.
Because I like Batman,
Mm-hmm.
and I really think The Dark Knight Returns is an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always considered it an overrated story.
Yeah.
It was one of those that I really felt like it was written at a time where it's cool to be as dark and gritty as possible. And while I did like it, and we're covering both parts for this because we did do both parts for the thing,
It's a Frank Miller story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I just got to say, I thought it was okay. Out of the Batman stuff I've watched, it's probably one of my least favorite. There were parts that I liked, but I guess I'm just not that 90s kid anymore who's all angsty. So, it doesn't hold with me as well as it used to. Because I read the original when it came out, and I loved it when it came out, but I never saw that until the time we did it, and I think that just the feel of it just wore itself out. So it was okay for me. Jacob?
I agree with you about the story. It's very dark. I'm not super crazy about that. I do know. Was it Kevin Smith that remarked that they thought that Batman v Superman was written by someone who'd only read The Dark Knight Returns or something? I don't know. I feel like I read that somewhere. But anyway, I'm intrigued by this take on Batman, but I'm not hugely a fan of it. I will say this: the animation, the movie, was much more entertaining to me than the actual comic was, and it was a very faithful adaptation for the most part. So part of me wants to say this is one of the best that we have out of these selections because it's such a well-made pair of films. It's just the story does drag it down. So I'm kind of teetering on that edge. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, though, and say it's one of the best.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I thought it was all right. Not one of my favorite Batman movies. Would I watch it again? I probably would watch it again. So I guess I just put it as okay.
Okay. Ping pong.
Huh.
Dave?
It's always hard for me to categorize anything that has to do with animation, Japanese animation, cartoon, anything.
Well, it's American, so.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
right
matter
on.
whether it's American or Japanese or whatnot. It's still hard for me to categorize anything of any caricature that has to do with something animated. Partially because I feel like it's half a movie. I get that a lot of people love animations, I even loved watching cartoons growing up, Hanna-Barbera, all that jazz. But as an adult, it's hard for me to get into animations as much as I used to. As far as this particular one, I'm glad that we did both of them together. It was a darker story. I did realize that Superman and Batman were kind of drawn largely big and broad in stature. I guess it was okay. I mean, the story kind of brought it down a little bit, like you guys said. So I would put it in the okay category. Would I watch it again? I think what I need to do is I need to actually really sit down and watch a lot of that stuff from the Batman animated on forward.
Mhm.
I still need to collect Batman Beyond and a couple of others. Like I need to start collecting the Harley Quinn series. I've heard that's
That's a
pretty
lot of
solid.
fun.
I mean,
Not
It's kind of running out of steam in its most recent season. I just should warn you, but it's pretty funny the first couple seasons.
I mean, shoot, the original Batman the Animated Series would definitely be one of the best for me.
Oh, absolutely.
So don't put my writing down as to I look at all the animated stuff as it's the same. I look at this one particular.
Well, this one is very different and distinct from the bunch. It does not. It's different. It's its own thing. Yeah.
Like Mask of the Phantasm, I would have put as one of the best.
But so Dave, you've gone right.
Yep. So Dustin.
For Dark Knight Returns, that's easily one of the best. I mean, because it's a story that after some more adaptations of it and a lot of things being influenced by it, it's not maybe as impactful as it was originally. But if you don't have kind of all that spoiling from other media that uses it as a source of like inspiration or ideas, then it's still pretty great. Like I think they did probably the best job they could have translating that from comic to like a moving thing. So I mean, the animation is not like mega mind blowing, but it's very good. It kind of fits with some of the like 2000s like Justice League kind of stuff. Like it's not quite in that style, but it's close enough to it that it makes it feel like this could be one possible future of some of those series. So I think the whole thing was done very well, and it has like great music and so many just totally nailed moments from the comics. So I mean, I think it's kind of one of the first times like it's comics and stories like that are trying to be like dark and edgier, or however you put it. So I wouldn't really hold that against it with the current trend of them doing that in like comic media or like superhero media. So a lot of those ideas come from this. So I don't think that's necessarily a fair thing to grade it on.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think this actually originally the comic, I think it came out the same year as The Killing Joke. And they both came out just in advance of Tim Burton's Batman.
And I think The Killing Joke at the time actually was more talked about than these particular.
They were both highly influential, but to different crowds. Burton was more influenced by The Killing Joke. But yeah, they were both highly influential in going into the 90s. Like I got into comics in the early 90s. And there was definitely, they were still riding that bit of darkness that was injected in the late 80s.
I mean, that's when you had Nightfall and all that stuff going.
Right. That's also in Marvel when they had like Executioner's Song and the Legacy Virus. I mean, geez, they had.
Well, Executioner's Song is still my favorite Marvel story.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
All right. Well, that one ranks as a solid.
All right.
So, Black Cauldron was Dave's pick. Black Cauldron, pretty simple. One of Disney's darker animated features. The source material was even darker than that. It was a good film. it was one that felt unfinished and very raw around the edges,
Mhm.
but it was okay. I would say it would be a high okay for me. It's one I would definitely watch again, but I can't put it as really solid. It's somewhere to what some of y'all have said. It's like it's almost to really solid, but not quite there.
Right.
All right. Well, Jake, your turn.
Well, and just like everyone else in America, I'm going to say that I had a similar reaction to this that I did to Beavis and Butthead. Disney, Beavis and Butthead. How do you... but this was during quote unquote Disney's dark days. And I did like the movie a lot. I liked that it did go places Disney film often wouldn't. You know, like it doesn't necessarily scream Disney. Let's put it that way. But that's both a good and a bad thing. Like again, I agree with you. It was a little rough and unpolished for a Disney movie. And the biggest sin on this one is, to be honest, when we did the discussion, I could barely remember it. Now, even more, I can barely remember the movie. So I did think it was really good, but I can barely remember it. So I'm just going to have to say it was okay.
All right. So, Tammy.
I liked it. I thought it was different. I like the whole fantasy thing, so it was cute. I'd probably watch it again.
So where would you put it? Okay, solid, best?
Not the best. I guess it was a salad.
All right. Gotcha. Poop. All right. So, Dave.
Since I'm the one who put this one forward, I think I'd actually bought this one finally some years back, and I just never sat down and watched it. And I kept meaning to, but then it came up for the group, and I was like, great. So now that I finally did, I thought it was a solid film. I mean, yes, I agree, Brandon, with some of your thoughts. I do think it was unfinished. I do think that, again, Jake, it was done during their darker times, but I do like the fantasy aspect of it. I did like the storyline, and I do think that they had a solid villain in there. At least a villainous mythos of sorts, you know. So that part they had carved out. But at the time, I remember it coming out, and I remember it looking similar to like The Sword and the Stone at the time. But I'm glad that it wasn't. That it was kind of its own story, and yeah, it's a solid film for me.
Okay, well, Dustin.
Pretty good. It was a solid watch. I don't remember like a ton about it, but I remember being somewhat impressed with the visual.
Okay.
5. Yep. So it keeps up its solid. And now we're going on to one of Jake's favorite animations of all time.
Oh, joy.
Ninja Scroll. Now, Ninja Scroll is one that I just felt like needed to go up. It's one that as a youngster, as a teen, always was kind of thrilling because you could see how bloody and awful animation could be as far as violence, sex, and just, overall stuff. And it is still a fun watch many years later. It was never my favorite film by any means, but I still consider it a solid film because the animation is amazing. Even now looking back at it, the animation looks really good. The action is very solid. It's one I can go back to a lot, though I would understand others giving it a lower rating because mine also hits with nostalgia. But as far as anime goes, I mean, definitely there are much worse action films, animation wise, musically, and so on. So I give it a solid for me. Jake? Well,
Well, this one I am very, very outspoken that this is an anti-nostalgia film for me because I not only did I hate it when I first saw it, but it turned me off to anime for several years. So that is a sin that is hard to forgive. Do I think it's a well animated film? Yeah. Does it have one of the most flippin' gorgeous? Ironically, it turned me off to anime but onto J-pop because it does have an absolutely gorgeous end theme. But at the end of the day, to me, it's just a weak story that feels like an excuse for blood, guts, and titties, basically. That's really all. And yes, for a lot of people, that was the draw, and that's why it was such a big hit. I can't give it the rating I want to because the scale you have doesn't work for that. I probably will end up watching it again. It's one of those movies that I'm not going to put a nail in the coffin. I do own it. There may be reasons in the future why I need to look at it again. Will I put it in for fun? Probably not. But if it's on, I'd watch it. I guess I can say it is okay, but I'm going to be very clear that unlike Black Cauldron and even Beavis and Butthead, it was okay is because I don't have anywhere else to put it on this rating.
I don't know. I could almost see you at Wish I'd Never Watched It.
No, I'm not going to go that far.
So, Tammy, I'm guessing you skipped this one, but I could be wrong.
I don't remember watching this one. No.
Okay.
It was a Japanese animation, so I think you would have been turned off by that. And me, the biggest thing I remember is the blood, the blood and guts.
Mm-hmm.
So my mind is trying to blank on some of the storyline, but once again, but I do remember this being like one of the films that I saw on VHS, or at least during swim, or during some sci-fi anime marathon. I don't know which, because I got into Unico, and I got into Lilycat at a very young age. So those two and this one were what brought me into the Japanese anime world. And honestly, coming back to it to see it again was a pleasure. And I actually look for things that actually show the blood, show the tits.
Well, definitely that. No shortage of either in this film.
which is why I like High School of the Dead.
Yeah, that's one I do not like. But actually, I dislike High School of the Dead probably for similar reasons why Jacob dislikes this one.
Could be.
But yeah, I mean, as far as anything goes, I think this is one of the top-notch nostalgia Japanese animations on the list. So I would put this as one of the best.
All right, Dustin.
So I have no idea what we're talking about, so I feel like I missed this one.
Believe you did. It was on one of your downer days, but it's understood.
Yeah.
Well, with that takes it to
it's really
a solid film, which I can agree with.
Well, you would agree with that.
Yeah, that's how I rated it. So now we're getting into something that is going to be a little bit harder to rate because, again, like the Universal Monsters themes, I will say that it is one of those that just classics, which is the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy. So we start with A New Hope, which just is the basic setup. It used to be my favorite of the three, believe it or not, back when I originally watched it. But as an adult, it is now my least favorite of the three. But the least favorite of excellent is still excellent, in my opinion. And I wouldn't say it's one of the best, but I would say A New Hope is definitely solid. It is a solid film. It establishes a lot of really cool characters, a lot of really cool things, and I can watch it over and over again and still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So that's to me how I will rank it.
Okay.
Here go, Jake. I know this one is you've said before this is your least favorite of the three, but
of the original trilogy, Star Wars is weird because one, it's the only one of the three that is a standalone movie because Lucas didn't know if there would be a sequel. So he does wrap it up, but he wraps it up with a really, really, really schmaltzy ending that still leaves a lot of things dangling because of the hope for a sequel. And even though I freaking love Mark Hamill, he's one of the greatest voice actors out there, and he's a really solid actor generally, and he just seems like a cool dude. He was awful in this movie. Absolutely awful. The first appearance of Luke is grates on my nerves. So I can't call this one of the best, but it is definitely a really solid watch, and I don't mind going back to it every once in a while. Yeah.
All right. So, Tammy. Tammy?
Tammy, are you there?
Oh, she got her mic muted, so she might have gone away for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Okay.
So, Star Wars: A New Hope.
That was good. I mean, like, I like the Star Wars movies, So,
But you're more of a Trekkie, aren't you?
yeah. But I still liked it. I'd watch it again.
Did you say it's solid or one of the best?
I say it was solid.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Dave?
I will always have some nostalgia for Star Wars. Well, actually, some people know it as Star Wars, and some people know it as Star Wars: A New Hope. So, or Episode 1,
Or actually 4.
Episode 4.
Yeah,
It was even Episode 4 back then.
yeah, but this was like the one that everyone actually saw. And I saw it without all the extras, like the first time on VHS and whatnot. So I remember the grain. And whatnot. I am glad that they went back and added shit. I mean, there's some shit that they should have never added, but I agree with most of it. As far as Star Wars movies go, it's a solid film. I mean, it is a great way to show you evil on one side, goodness on another, and a whole religion of the Force. So interesting concept, and it will always be a solid film.
Well, Dustin, your thoughts on A New Hope?
I mean, it's the first Star Wars movie. It does a great deal of work in establishing Star Wars as a thing, and I don't know. I feel like there's only glowing positive things to say about it. So, I mean, I can see what you were talking about with Mark Hamill maybe being a little. Sometimes people say Luke comes off as kind of whiny and immature, and that's really the point of Luke's character, like in the first Star Wars. Like he's supposed to kind of suck, you know. So I'm just a bit unsure as to, you know, what do you want? Like it makes sense.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
no doubt. No
So I
doubt.
mean, in terms of if you're looking at just like the first 3 Star Wars, like where to put them in like terms of enjoyment, I mean, I think I would put it. I think I would put it at the bottom, maybe too, because it doesn't. I mean, it spends so much time just. A lot of it is spent on introduction. Like it's mostly about setup and introduction, and you do get like a good story.
Well, yeah, it was the Hidden Fortress, which we'll have to cover
Yeah,
one of these
it's
days.
just I don't know. I like the other two. I like Empire and Return of the Jedi more because we get to see more of the Star Wars world. Let's put it that way. Like episode 1 is like episode 4 establishes this, and then we get to kind of have some more fun with it. I mean, I'm gonna do the kind of basic, boring. Like as an adult, I like Empire the most because it gives you all this like character information that you want about each of like the main cast. And I like Return of the Jedi because it's got a lot of great resolutions for everybody in it too. I mean, there was some stuff that I guess people wanted to see that they didn't get to see. Like people complained about the Ewoks, like, but the rest of it is just so satisfying that, you know, it's one of those things where I don't really understand why people have a problem with it. So, in terms of this, I mean, it's, you know, one of the best. I think that's a pretty easy call to make for episode 4, but it does sit at the bottom of kind of that pecking order of the original trilogy for me. So I would say all 3 Star Wars movies can go in one of the best.
Okay. So, and of course, that evens out to solid watch. But now we're getting into Empire. So, Empire, I feel like Empire is overrated, in my opinion. I feel like everybody looks at this as like, this is the best because it's the most depressing. I've grown on it over the years. It is not my favorite of the 3, but it has overtaken A New Hope with me as I appreciate it more. But there's still that part of me, it's like, I like movies where I feel like there's a resolution, and this one just felt like transition. But at the same time, it is a classic film. It is looked at by most people as one of the best of all time, and I can't really knock it. So I would put it as more like a 4.6, but it would still put it up at one of the best. Jacob?
I definitely consider this the best of the 3. My issue with this one primarily is that it is just the bridge between parts 1 and 2. It's a really, really great bridge, but it hurts it as a standalone film. But even so, it is the best of the 3, and I feel like one of the Star Wars should be on the one of the best list, so I'll pick this one to be one of the best.
All right. Tammy?
I liked it. Like I liked the other one, you know, but I don't think it's one of the best, but I enjoyed it. I'd probably watch it again. So
Well, it's the one that you remember going and seeing with your Nana.
yeah, I know, but I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I like Star Wars. I will watch it again, but it's not it's not a favorite.
Gotcha.
Well, so what we're going to do is we're going to just do a very brief because we are running lower on time. So we're going to move a little bit faster. So we'll try and keep it to just a very short maybe a one sentence that you could say about it, followed by the rating at this point. This is our first time doing this, so next year we'll be like moving quicker. But that way we can cover them because we still got a lot of films to cover. But we'll go ahead to you, Dave, and hit yours. Like I say, we'll just do it now, like one sentence plus rating.
Well, the way I would rate, I'll just do my full rating of the Star Wars movies in general, real fast, and then I'll let's see. So I would rate the Star Wars films in this order: the original 3, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and I would bottom out the Star Wars at the bottom. That being said, Empire Strikes Back, it's a solid film. It brings about the darkness of the Force, and the basically puts the good guys in a bad position by the end of the film. So to me, it does its job. So to me, it's solid. Is it the best? No. Is it the worst? No. But I do think it is a solid film.
And Dustin, I know you had said your piece earlier. Did you have anything else to add? Because you had said they're all three at one of the best. So, anything to add on Empire?
You with us, Dustin?
Well, he had said it was one of the best.
No, I was muted and I forgot to click it. So I don't know if I would say people consider Empire the best because it's quote unquote depressing, because I have never found Empire depressing at all in the slightest, and I'm a little confused by that comment, honestly. But I mean, I just like how it explores like the characters more, and I mean, yeah, everybody's off kind of doing their own thing, but it really like fills out some questions you had about maybe people's personalities or why things are this way. Or it's one thing you have to remember about the original Star Wars trilogy is that all the characters are really likable and we like spending time with them, and that's largely what Empire is. So I think that's the main thing I enjoy about it.
So we're going to hurry things up for Jedi. I'm going to do a brief blurb what it's about, and then after that, just very brief, and then rating. Jedi, third movie in the original trilogy, resolves everything. Lots of Muppets. My favorite of the three. I put it as one of the best. Jake?
I think you just moved something weirdly, didn't you? Or yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I love Jedi. I think it's probably the most enjoyable, arguably, of the first three, and it does kind of resolve the first trilogy. So I'll for me, it just misses one of the best. I would say it's a really, really solid film.
Okay. Tammy?
I think it was fun. It was enjoyable. Watch it again, probably. So I think it's solid.
Dave?
I actually think this one is the best of the trilogy. So I'll go with best. And I'm sorry, this is when I thought Princess Leia was a babe.
How about you, Dustin?
Hold on one second. I think I realized what you did. Wasn't Black Cauldron on the third line?
Oh, yeah, it got. I thought. Okay. No, I think it got. Solid.
What? I swear there were three on that line. Am I the only one seeing that? Or the only one remembering that?
I guess I wasn't paying attention.
Anyway, I'm just gonna say, Return of the Jedi was my favorite one for a really long time, and it's still something I prefer over Empire in the right mood.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the complaints people had are just, they feel so trivial now. Like, oh, the Ewoks were weird. It's like, with what they did with like the sequel movies, like those are just so insanely bad. So I don't know how anybody could have ever made any complaints about anything in the original trilogy, or really even the sequels, honestly. Not sequels, even the prequels, honestly. But
Well, I could definitely say about that, but that's for another discussion.
Right.
And
Maybe we'll hit the prequels this year.
maybe. All right.
I do that anyway. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
All right. Well, Demolition Man.
Hmm.
So Demolition Man is Wesley Snipes. Was it Wesley Snipes? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sylvester Stallone going head to head in a future time, eating Taco Bell.
I'm going to quickly say one of the best, and then not elaborate further till I get back.
Let's see here. I look at it. It's a fun movie, very enjoyable, solid watch. All right, Jacob.
I was surprised how much I enjoyed that movie. I wasn't going into it expecting it, but yes, I would say that was a really solid watch.
Tammy.
I have to agree. I liked it more than I thought I would. So yeah, I thought it was solid too.
Dave.
I think this is one of the best action films on the list, so I'm going to actually put this in the best movie category.
I think it was
plus,
your pick.
I can't get over the fact that that Taco Bell is like the only restaurant in the fucking thing. Or wasn't it another restaurant? Like depending on the version that you saw.
Pizza Hut, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the international version?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What is it that Dustin said? Did he already give his rating on it? I know he said he was going to be right back and he'd elaborate, but I can't remember.
I think he would have put a solid rating on it.
That might be what he said. I think it's solid anyway because that's pretty much what everyone but Dave said.
I don't think. Yeah. Let me see if A divide that.
One
by
choice
5.
is not going to change it.
Yeah, even if he gave it a 5, it would have still been a solid. So
yeah, Demolition Man is one of my films that I like to watch if it came to like action films.
Dustin says give it the highest rating, but again, that's probably not going to change the.
Yep, good action, memorable jokes, always fun. But yeah, it doesn't change the end rating.
Right.
But yes, end rating is solid. But so, Weathering with You, Jacob choice.
Yep.
Depressy film, romancy film, rainy film, anime, and I thought it was pretty decent. I compare all of them to Your Name, and it's not as good as Your Name, but that's hard to beat. Matter of fact, I don't think Suzune probably will not come out to that level, but you never know.
And also, they're essentially a series, with this one being the second in the bunch.
So, with that being said, I would give it a solid. Okay. It was well done, but definitely not one that I'm going, oh my god, I love it. Yeah.
Tammy didn't watch because it was an anime, so
right.
Yes, seashells.
Tammy, you're missing out. But anyway, maybe not on this one. I am a huge fan of Makoto Shinkai. Your Name is one of my all-time favorite films, and Suzume was incredible. This was my least favorite of the 3, but it still is a damn solid film. So I will put it right there on solid film.
All right. Well, if Tammy missed it, then I guess it's your turn, Dave.
I'm just going to put it as just okay.
Okay.
And are you back, Dustin, or are you hearing
I don't think
this?
Dustin was on there for that one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think so. I doubt he saw it either. You never know. Okay, so
3.66666666666.
So I don't know why you keep moving things around to match the last person because you're giving yourself extra work.
Well,
but anyway.
It's kind of fun to see something moving on the screen when we're talking.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to see where it goes in the ratings.
Mm.
All right. So that one was Don't Worry, Darling. That was a Dave submission.
Yep.
Yep.
It's about people in a strange time loving each other in a fake world with fake things. Feminism. All right.
So kind of like the downer version of Barbie.
Yes. So with that, I thought it was okay. Definitely better than I thought it was going to be. Not as good as I had hoped it would be. So I would say it's right here in the middle. Fairly decent film.
Okay.
Good enough.
This was one I had really high hopes for and I really wanted to see. And so the bar was set pretty high. And I will admit, I probably will enjoy it more on future watches. Chris Pine, though, was absolutely great as basically a cult leader. I will give it a really solid watch.
All right. Dave?
Yeah.
I'll call
Sorry,
it one of the best
Tammy,
movies.
sorry.
I'll call it one of the best movies.
Okay.
Tammy?
I'll call it a solid.
Okay.
Actually, I'm the one who said something about it to Dave about watching this one. So
All right. Are you back, Dustin? I don't.
Yeah, which one?
Don't worry, darling. I don't think you're on for it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't think you were on for it, but it was a trippy film. So
What was?
Don't Worry, Darling.
No, didn't see that.
Okay.
So divided by 4. I'm pretty sure it's a solid.
Yep.
All right. So one I know Dustin saw, but Last Night in Soho. So this one is about a fashion designer and a haunting and a murder. There you go. Terrible short things, but I'm doing them in really short form. Good film, really great film. One that surprised me about how good it was. I'm actually going to put it as one of the best. Probably one of my favorite suspense films of the year it was released.
Okay.
So definitely.
And
Jake?
this is one that I thought about going to see in theaters, and I kicked myself afterwards for not doing it. It's an Edgar Wright film, so just like all other Edgar Wright films, they had a kick-ass soundtrack. I really liked this one. I would actually give it a one of the best ranking as well.
All right. Tammy.
I'm gonna go with one of the best too. I really enjoyed it.
Dave?
I am definitely on top there with one of the best.
Dustin.
One of the best. So this movie.
Oh, wow.
This movie really impressed. I picked
Yes.
this movie, I think. This movie really blew me away the first time I saw it. I really, really loved it. And I had heard about it for a while, but I really dragged my feet on checking it out. And kind of like you, Jake, that's something that I was upset about later.
So actually, I think that's one. I think other than Blues Brothers, I think it's the only one that got a perfect score.
No, Blues Brothers did not get a perfect score.
Then it's the only one that got a perfect score.
There you go.
So with that being said, Wet Hot American Summer. I know I picked that one. It was one of my 2 birthday picks.
Mm-hmm.
I will always have a nostalgic love for the comedy in this. It does not hold up. It does not carry over well today, but it's still a fun enough film. I love that Dungeons and Dragons save the camp.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much of it. The fact that they go away from the town and it's great to get out once in a while, even if it's only for an hour. I mean, that just still holds up as one of my favorite jokes.
Right.
So I'm going to leave it as a solid because of that.
Not to mention how many careers this movie helped launch.
Oh, yes.
It's the first ever movie for Bradley Cooper. And then, all those others. Great soundtrack. I agree with you. The nostalgia colors this one. It did not age as well as I would like. but I would still call it a really solid watch.
Tammy.
I only liked it this, but okay.
All right. Dave.
I liked it less than her. But because Paul Rudd and Bradley Cooper were in it, I'm definitely not going to put it on the bottom. I'm going to put it in between okay and the green.
So you're like me with Beavis and Butthead, like you don't really know where you or Ninja Scroll.
I'm sorry, a lot of the humor just fell flat for me. It was not funny.
How about you, Dustin? Did you watch Wet Hot American Summer?
I didn't watch it with you guys, but I do remember being kind of unimpressed.
Well, if you've watched it, you can always give a rating.
Wouldn't watch again.
All right.
Okay.
Equals that. I know that. So that takes it to okay.
Yep.
All right. So I think one of two Evan Jacobs films on this list, The Park. We had. I will say this: the Park, of course, is about these two guys. They find a little disc, and then they're worried about the mob coming after them. It's a lot of paranoia, and then ends in a very weird, trippy scene. It was an amazing discussion. I will say that's one of my favorite shows of the year. But as far as film, it's
we had Evan on for that one, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, cool.
And it was one that we dedicated to the guy who died in it. One of the stars did die in that one. So
died in it?
No, not died in it, but he died. He died that year. Actually, died in 2023. So I'll give it a solid watch, but probably it would be a straight on 4 for me because it's one that I think was good, but I still have a conflicting opinion about that ending. But Jake.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I know I really like Evan Jacobs. I think he seems like a really cool dude. And his part in that movie you did is great. But so far, I don't have quite the love for his films that you do. This one I did find to be one of the more entertaining ones. But I still would probably go with it was okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, I understand.
A high ranking one.
His movies are an acquired taste, to be sure. Except for Schusterman Levine. I think that has a
that was a good one, yeah.
So Tammy, did you watch this one?
I don't remember it.
I think you stepped out of that one. Dave?
I'm a fan of Evan Jacobs stuff. In fact, I think I'm the one that turned you on to him.
Yep, Death Toilet.
But the park had some interesting aspects to it. I mean, it had him working with clip art and whatnot. It was on the level of Birdemic a little bit, but I actually think that it wasn't bad for Evan Jacobs. So I would say okay.
Were you on for that one at all, Dustin? I don't know if you were.
Which one?
The Park.
The Park? Oh, yeah, I was on for The Park. I did not like The Park. I was mostly just sitting there like, what the fuck is this? Like, the whole time.
How's that penguin?
So you have to have a load
not
of
a penguin, I recall, but
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it for me. That was I would not watch again. I would not talk about. I did feel bad that one of the stars died though, so I was like nicer on it than I normally would be because the creator was there.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was just nonsense, honestly.
So, well, that still gives it a solid 3, which works well. All right.
We still don't have a movie none of us would watch again. Will it happen?
There's at least 3 of us that are willing to say it's okay. So let's see. Unbreakable. I don't know who's got the microphone going, but
What is happening? Like, because I'm hearing that on my end too, so it's not my mic.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it apparently just stopped.
yeah,
So that's Unbreakable. Some of these are hard to tell. Okay.
yep, it's unbreakable. Okay,
Okay.
it's back. It's gone.
Oh, for Christ's sake!
All right. Well, and I can't catch it because I'm not looking at y'all's. But in any case, Unbreakable. So, Unbreakable was the first in the trilogy that Shyamalan did. I really want to like this film. I was not there for the discussion, but I have seen it multiple times. I really want to like this film. It's got a lot of things that make me want to like this film, but it bores me a lot. I get bored with this film a lot.
Yeah.
So, because of that kind of warring factions in my head, I will give it an okay.
It does move at the rate of a very slow and confused snail, which is my biggest fault with it. It is a fascinating movie, very well acted, competently directed. Shyamalan is actually on point here in most ways. It's just so slow. So I'm torn on whether to give it a really solid watch, but I think I will do that. Really solid watch, but it is slow.
All right. Tammy.
I'll give it a solid watch. I think it's one I picked anyways, and so I really like it. I'll watch it again.
All right. Dave.
I'm actually going to put this as one of the best.
All right.
I like its pacing, and I like that it sets up his own version of Marvel.
So, Dustin.
I was pretty impressed with it. It's something that people had always talked about, but I just never got around to seeing, and I really enjoyed it. So I would say definitely really solid. My only real complaints with it was, it does kind of take a while to warm up. Like, it keeps you engaged during that warm up, but my mind did wander a little bit a couple times. So
I'll point out as much as I said it's slow. It's interesting throughout, which is good.
It does hold your attention decently well most of the time. Yeah.
Like I say, I want to like it. I just keep falling asleep during it whenever I watch it, so I can't really. So, Fanboys. Fanboys is a solid comedy. I enjoy it about these guys who go to try and see the Phantom Menace because one of their friends is dying and he wants them to see it before he dies. And it's got a lot of other friendship building. Got a lot of cool things in it. I enjoy it. I'd say it's a solid watch for me. Can't get to the mouse because of the cat.
Got some big cameos as well.
Yes, ton of cameos.
I like it. It's not a great film, but I put it forward because we had just done the Star Wars movies. It seemed appropriate. And I find it a fun, solid watch.
All right. Tammy?
Which one were we doing again?
Fanboys.
Bad Boys?
Fanboys.
Fanboys.
Yeah. You were there for it. I just don't know. Yeah.
It's about the guys who go to see the Star Wars movie.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
That one was fun.
Yep.
I like that one.
So did you say it's solid or one of the best?
Solid. It was fun. I like that one.
All right. Dave?
I would actually say it's a very solid, fun film.
Dustin?
We'll never watch again. Like, it was, it felt very, very, very dated. It was kind of like, I might have laughed at this when I was like 22, but I don't know. I was just kind of tired of it.
Well, at
An
least you're not saying you wish you'd never watched it.
an interesting insight into kind of like the mindset
nerdism
of the
of
times,
the
I guess is a
fanboyism.
good way to put it. Because a lot of people, like I think I said this during our review of it, like I don't think a lot of people really know that, camping out for a movie like that was a thing people did. And
Yeah.
It's a time capsule, if
I
anything.
I remember camping out for certain games for the CP, so I know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that evens out into a solid. All right, Adventures of Baron Munchausen. I got this up because the Criterion was releasing that time, and I also really love this film. It is probably my favorite Gilliam film next to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and that's debatable whether it's a Gilliam film because of the kind of shared directorship.
Right.
And I know that that's contentious with a lot of people because most people would not put that as their favorite, but it's a fun film. I really enjoy it. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I put it as one of the best. I explain it more, but we're lacking in time. So.
Right. I really love the Munchausen. It's a fun movie. It is one of the more enjoyable Gilliam films. All of his films are rough around the edges and a little bit flawed. Would I put this as one of the best? Is kind of I'm not 100% sure if I would. I'd probably have to go with a really solid film.
All right. Tammy.
I guess I go with the solid film too. It was fun.
Dave?
I'm actually gonna put this one as one of the best. I mean, come on, dude's riding a cannonball, and you cannot forget Robin Williams and his headless philandering.
Oh, yeah.
Robin Williams in the film.
That was fun.
Dustin, did you see this one?
Oh yeah, I saw this one. Actually, I definitely want to put one of the best for this one because I think this might be my favorite thing I ever saw from at your suggestion. This really kicked ass. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Okay.
Well, that one actually gets to keep its rating there.
Okay.
So, Witchin' and Bitchin'. Dave's submission. It's about witchin' and bitchin'. Okay, and lots of stuff going on there. With that being said, what can I say about this film?
This was a Spanish film, wasn't it? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
3. There, that's what I say about the film.
No, nice.
Nice.
I thought the film was interesting. It caught my attention a lot better than I thought it would. But at the end of the day, yeah, I had mixed feelings on this one. I'll go with okay.
All right, Tammy.
I don't know what to think of it, so I'll go with okay.
Dave.
Okay. Believe it or not, I actually knew of this film because it was actually played at the Milwaukee Film Festival several years in a row. And I know the creme de la creme of film people here in Milwaukee loved it. That being said, and everyone that I knew had seen it loved it, except for you guys. So, that being said, this is honestly next to Last Night in Soho is probably one of my favorite picks. So,
Okay.
Probably one of the best.
Okay.
And finally, Dustin.
It's also probably one of the weirdest.
Did you watch this one, Dustin?
Which one again?
Witchin' and Bitchin'.
Oh yes, I've been wanting to see it for a while, and I was kind of not in the greatest condition that day, but I liked what I was able to focus on. Let's put it that way. It's pretty long, and being subtitled, it kind of dampens some of the comedy because you have to like read the subtitles.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was pretty fun and had kind of lived up to the hype that I was given about it. Because I had it on DVD for a reason, and I think I watched my DVD. So I got it from Family Video back when that was a thing. So it was good. I'd say solid watch because I do want to watch it again and pay closer attention. It was the kind of thing where it's like, oh well, I've technically seen it. Like, no, I want to explore that a little more. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that one gets a solid at the end of it. All right. So Megan actually threw me for a loop when I saw it originally, which was before Dustin recommended it, and because I wanted to see it, but I wasn't giving it high hopes because I was like, I don't know. But I actually really liked it. I still really like it. It's enjoyable. I'll give it a solid.
Megan impressed me a lot more than I thought it was going to. Of course, I went in with a low bar of expectations. I thought it was pretty solid.
All right. Tammy.
I really liked it a lot, so I'll put it as one of the best.
All right. Oh, let's see. All right. And Dave.
Definitely the Harley Quinn version of a robot, but I would put it as a fairly solid film. I'm definitely looking forward to the sequel. Let's put it that way.
Dustin?
One of the best, like, easily.
Divided by 5. 4.4. So just barely goes down to solid. So still fun film. Now Dead Leaves. I put Dead Leaves there as a lark. I don't know why, but I always like to pair that one with Cat Soup because it's sort of like just the weirdness factor is just as high as Cat Soup.
The movie is batshit insane. That's the way to put it.
But it's a lot more bloody and sexy than Cat Soup. And, I can't say it's one of the best, but I still really enjoy it. So I'm going to have to put it as solid. Jacob.
I never know what to think after I watch this movie. I think I've seen it 3 times, and I never know what to think. But it's nothing if not fun. And I think we watched it in Action Month, right?
Yes.
So it definitely is an action film. There's no question. It does not let the... So I'm going to give it maybe a little bit more credit than I normally would and say it's a really solid film. It's definitely a solid action film. There's no question there.
All right. Tammy. I don't think you didn't see it. And I'm pretty sure.
Which one?
Dead Leaves. She actually watched it, but I don't think she came on for it.
Did we? Did I?
Yeah, you watched it with me.
I did.
Yeah. It was a dude with a computer head, and they ended up going up against some cops, going to jail. Yeah, it was kind of mad adder.
It
you
had
did
the,
not go on, but you watched it with me.
Basically, if you think about an animated movie that throws together the basic Bonnie and Clyde story trope with everything but the kitchen sink and lots and lots and lots of guns and...
Oh, I remember. Oh, I didn't.
You didn't like it.
No.
So would that be in the farthest down category or will likely never watch again category?
Likely we'll never watch again.
All right. Well, hey, at least it wasn't I wished I never watched it. How about you, Dave?
Okay. You're the one who bought it for me to begin with as a birthday present. Like, I think it was the first birthday I had that you knew me, because you were trying to get me into animated stuff. So I will still say it's okay. I mean, it's not the worst. It's not the best. It's okay.
I figured if anything, you would like the sex and violence.
It's definitely worth having in the collection just because it's that wacky. But
Did you watch this one, Dustin?
Dead Leaves. I thought it was all right. It reminded me of. I think I said it reminded me of Fooly Cooly, which there was some overlap in like who wrote it or made it or something like that.
I think this was a Gainax production, which Fooly Cooly definitely is a Gainax.
So I mean, I thought it was fine. It was something I don't know if I would have watched on my own. So I was happy with it.
So okay, I guess.
Yeah, I'd call it solid. Like it was cool.
5 by 5, 3.4. So it will stay at okay. All right. So then was Tammy's pick, Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon is a classic, buddy cop movie. The buddy cop of buddy cop movies. But for me, I was not in a good place when I watched it, and it made that place even worse. A much darker place for me, so I can't give it a perfect rating. It doesn't hold up for me like it used to, but there's definitely places in it that just hit me badly personally. So I will give it solid because of its pedigree, and because I'm sure that if I watch it in a better spot in my life, I'll like it more. But I couldn't give it above that right now. All right, Jacob.
And I'll say it's interesting that of the 4 films that we did in Action August, I think is what the theme ended up being.
That's probably the least actiony of the action films.
It was probably the least actiony, but it's the one everyone thinks of as an action classic. But I like Lethal Weapon. I think it's a whole lot more serious than the sequels were. It's still got good humor in it, but like you said, it does go dark. I can't call it one of the best, but it's definitely one of the more solid choices for the year.
All right, Tammy?
I'll go with one of the best because I actually like the whole franchise. I always say that when it comes to films that have sequels, that this particular ones are good sequels. Normally you get, there's another one. I don't think so with these. So I really like the Lethal Weapons. So,
Dave?
I'm actually in agreement with Tammy here. All 4 of them are fairly solid, but Lethal Weapon itself, it does go painful. And this is at a time where Mel Gibson, this was before his fall from grace, so you can't tack that onto him.
No.
And he's definitely got some emotional raw material for us in this movie. So that being said, that one of the best.
And Dustin?
Lethal Weapon, I'd say one of the best because it's such a solid action film, and yeah, it does have some pretty dark stuff in it. But I think that a lot of action films don't necessarily have something to say, the way I think Lethal Weapon did with that whole plot. So I think I would give it some extra points for that, even though it may not be something that's always good for all audiences.
All right.
I've certainly had a lot of those feelings this year too, and it's this last year too, and so it I don't know, it didn't get to me. Well, maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but I don't know, it made me feel kind of seen, I guess. So
Well, so let's move on to Crank. We definitely cranked up the action for Crank. Crank is unusually fun. it and its sequel are both insanely fun films. I really enjoy them. I can't put them as the best because to me they're not, but they're extremely fun films. Definitely solid film.
I do have to say they are the some of the best Jason Statham action films.
Oh yeah, and he's had some good ones. And one of these days we'll need to hit a couple of the others. But this one I always remembered my first time watching this one. I'd had a few beers. I was hanging out with some frats watching it on stolen equipment. It was the perfect way to watch a movie like this. This time around, I watched it stone sober, and it was still fun. So, good on them. I would definitely say this is a good, solid film. Very enjoyable. Probably work a little better with a couple beers in you, but still.
All right. And Tammy?
I say it's solid. It kept you going. It was just like, okay, now what? Now what is he gonna do? Now So yeah. I thought it was
Dave?
cool.
Oh, sorry.
I as well can't put it in the best category, although I'd like to. Just for the fact that it's whatever. So I put it in the 4.5 category. It's solid.
All right, Dustin.
I'd put it in solid as well. It was a bit overwhelming. Like, what is happening? You know? Like, it moves pretty quick.
It was almost like Jason Statham took a dose of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Well, speaking of Fear and Loathing, we are going with Baby Driver, which was Jake's pick. It had a really solid soundtrack, decent enough action film, decent enough crime film, heist film, I guess. It's in between. It's okay and solid for me. I'll err on the side of being nice and give it a solid, because I don't plan on watching it again anytime in the near future, but I wouldn't mind if someone put it on.
Well, it's the same director as Last Night in Soho, and like I said, I really enjoy Edgar Wright's films. I think he's a very good director. I enjoy them. I enjoy the soundtracks. This one is a little problematic in that several of its leads have baggage, notably Kevin Spacey, but a couple of the others as well. But it's a fun movie, and it's an action film. Again, this one, Crank and Dead Leaves were all pretty small action films.
There's like constant action on three of those.
And I love that this one almost got the Oscars to do. They actually nominated it for sound for the music because they had no better way to do it. So I love that happened. I'm definitely going to give this a really solid, but I'm almost tempted to say it's one of the best of the choices we have here. But I'm probably just going to stick with solid for this one.
All right, Tammy?
I'm with you, Brandon. I kind of in between okay and solid. I mean, I wouldn't mind watching it again. I'm going to go out of my way to watch it again, but I probably would watch it again. You know, it was cool. The soundtrack was the best. It was really good. So, I guess I'll be nice and give it a solid.
All right, Dave.
I'm gonna go with solid.
All right, and let's see here, and gosh, what was it? And Dustin.
Which one were we on again?
Baby Driver.
What?
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver. Sorry, the phone distracted me. Yeah, it was fine. It wasn't as like mind blowing as I'd been led to believe it was, but it was still good. I thought. I think I would give it a solid.
All right.
Well, that one's easy to figure out.
Yep, that's all the same rating. All right, so very solid film. All right, so we went into Doc Month. We start with Pennywise It, which was all about the
Pennywise the story.
90s, yeah, 90s It miniseries. Pretty cool stuff. It was kind of great to see some of the stuff, some of the actors. Again, it's in between okay and solid for me. Again, I'll be nice and put it into solid. I'll say it's a 3.55.
For me, this one, absolutely, I have to say it was just okay. For one, I don't like the misleading title. The title made me think it was the story of It. And it wasn't. It was all about the miniseries. And I was very annoyed by that being misled that way. So, and even about the miniseries, I felt like this felt like a DVD bonus feature more than an actual movie. So I'm going to say it was okay.
Yeah, that's probably my reason for having it as where it is, because it did feel like more of a special feature you'd find on the It movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a separate production, it did feel somewhat lacking, but it's one of a handful of documentaries by those kind of guys. So I think they did a Pet Cemetery documentary that I saw as well, and it's you learn a lot of stuff. Like, it's not bad. It's just a little flat on its own, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it has its own disc release, which I think is how I saw that.
So where would you rate it then?
I think it was okay. I will put it was okay, because there was a lot of stuff I didn't already know. The It miniseries, the Blu-ray only really comes with like a commentary track as of now, and so this would have been really great to have on the disc.
Oh yeah,
for the It movie, but I think it's one of those things where whoever owns that didn't want to like pay for extras or something. So it's one of those situations where you have to kind of get this separate, even though they should probably be bundled together. So hopefully that can happen in the future if it hasn't happened already.
It'd make a really good shout release or something.
Oh yeah,
that would be great. Although I think doesn't Lionsgate have It 1990?
Possibly.
Because Lionsgate doesn't license anything out or do anything cool, honestly. The only video line that they do is really great, but it
is owned by Disney, the mouse. So that goes a lot saying.
Okay.
Well, so Tammy, what would you rate this?
Not favorite the other one because I really did like it. I watched it. I did not come on at the time because of things that were going on, but I watched it.
Well, how would you rate it?
Solid.
Yeah, solid. That's it.
All right. And Dave?
I would call it solid because I liked it more than I guess you guys did. So I get that you guys thought it was like an extra that could have been on a disc, but I feel like if they had not of gotten Tim Curry on the thing, then yes, I could have seen it as an extra. They put it, but because they had Tim Curry on it, I find it a very good standalone documentary. So.
Well, and now we're on to one that I will probably be the only one to give this a really good rating, which is Sean's Senior Year. Easily still my favorite 2023 film. I consider it one of the best documentaries of the year. It is one that follows a kid that is on the spectrum, and having to deal with the changes going on. I think it's probably one of the few documentaries on the subject that gets as real as it does and feels as human as it does. I would even go as far to say is one of the best things that Evan Jacobs has ever produced. That and the fact that they are using it in schools to assist with normalizing a lot of that and to try and help people on the spectrum at schools to be treated better by a lot of teachers and so on. I feel like it's just, to me, a 5. And one of the best. Jake?
I'm not entirely sure where to fall on this. I will agree that it is one of the better Evan Jacobs productions I've seen. It may be the only full-on documentary I've seen at this point that he's done. Although, of course, Sean himself was credited as co-director, if I remember correctly. It's an interesting documentary. But I'm not sure that I'm on the border. I'll be generous and say it's a really solid film, but it's on the border for me.
Okay. Tammy? Oh, you didn't watch this one, I don't think.
Yeah, I did. I found it interesting, but and I understand what it stands for and everything, but I'm probably just gonna have to give it an okay.
All right. Dave?
I'm gonna give it an okay. Almost a solid, like in between, because I do get what Evan was doing with the film, and I do think it was for the right reasons, and I think he had a relationship with him from a very early age, and his dedication to his progress is impressive. Having it somewhat happen over what happened during the pandemic is kind of interesting. So I'm actually leaning more towards solid.
Okay. Dustin? Let's see.
I'm kind of thinking. I think I would probably give it a solid. It was something that was kind of. I think I'm giving more credit to like the difficulty in making it and like what it was portraying, because as a film, it wasn't exactly. I mean, it was interesting and it felt like it was worth like seeing, but it wasn't exactly entertaining.
Right.
It was more of a serious documentary. And so in that regard, it was pretty good. As something like, you put on for fun, like, no. And I think I would give it somewhere in between, like solid and okay, but I would tick more towards solid. So just like one of those things where it's like, see it once, so that you have the information and the perspective on that experience.
Yeah, I like that they're actually taking it to schools and stuff like that, because it does give an insight into the experience that a lot of people don't get to see.
Right.
And it's very useful, I think, in that regard. So.
All right, moving on to Gimme Shelter. Gimme Shelter, I felt was misleading because I never read anything about the film. I had felt like, because every time, the only thing I ever heard about was like, this is one of the Rolling Stones documentaries, and it was only covering that one concert, and it was all right in that sense. But to tell you the truth, I will never watch it again. I'm not going to say I regret watching it, but I will never watch it again. So, moving on to you, Jake.
I will say I kind of have similar thoughts with this one and Sean Senior Year. They're both good. They're both interesting. I'm glad I saw them. But in this one, I will say, did have some really great music. But I myself was expecting more. I found the film hard to watch, hard to focus on. I'm going to give it an okay. A very high okay, but I'm going to give it an okay.
All right. Tammy.
I agree with what you guys have said. I mean, because I thought there'd be more to it. Also, it just kind of like did seem to focus all on one concert. So I don't. I probably won't ever watch it again.
All right.
Okay.
Dave?
On that long.
Well, to be honest, it kind of showed an interesting time because the concert that they were doing it at was at like that second what they were calling like the next what is that concert that was
Woodstock.
all the hippies went to? Yeah, Woodstock. Like the second Woodstock of its time, you know? And so the way people were reacting, you could tell that they were high as fucking kites during that concert. So that aspect of the film, I will remember. But I will still give it an okay, and I'm glad that I guess I knew a little bit more about the incident that happened during there.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
that being said, I probably will not see it again.
All right. Dustin.
I missed that one, but it sounded pretty boring, so avoid.
It depends on how much you really like the Rolling Stones to the point where you would be interested in knowing about that one.
I do not care about the Rolling Stones. Put it that
All
way.
right. So yeah, you probably would find it boring. That
All
barely.
of the Rolling Stones.
This one barely squeaks into okay.
I don't know how. We had 3 people who said they'll never watch it again.
Actually, was a 2.5 a down, would you say? Or
Brandon, you had 3 people say they'll never watch it again. You don't have to calculate.
plus 3. Let's see, divided by 4. Oh, I divided it by 5. Sorry.
Okay.
I divided it wrong. All right. Because it's 3 2s and a 3. All right. Actually, no, I thought you gave it okay.
I said it was okay, but everyone else said they never wanted to watch it again.
No, and Dave gave it an okay.
But I heard him. Never mind.
It was 2 3s and 2 2s.
Dave, what was your vote? I heard you say you never wanted to watch it again. But I don't know. Anyway. We should just...
I did say that I will never watch it again, probably.
Yeah.
All right. So, Living with Wolves. Interesting subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing I'm going to like hold super high. I'll say it's okay.
I thought this was probably the best documentary of the month. Of course, I'm very partial to nature documentaries. I'm probably going to give it a solid film, but it was kind of on the weekend of that.
All right. And Tammy.
It's definitely one of the best. I love my wolfies.
All right. And Dave?
I'll give it a solid. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it before.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember coming across the copy that I did have of it for her through a friend of mine, very strangely. So, having collected it weirdly, I'll give it a solid.
Okay.
All right. And Dustin.
I don't think I saw it for the show. I think I might have seen it in school. If it's the same one I have in mind, then it was okay. So I would give it an okay.
Okay. 3.8. Well, can stay where it is.
Okay.
All right. Black Swan Black Swan is one of those films that is definitely a film, and I will say,
well, we're heading into the month where we were trying to
the films that scare us.
Yeah.
I didn't ever feel scared about the film, but definitely feelings of dread. It's not a pleasant film to watch. It's a film that I definitely feel like it's good to watch at least once.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say I won't watch it again because I probably will. So I'll have to give it okay. It's very competent, very well acted, very good music. It's one of those I feel technically is riding on all cylinders, but as far as enjoyment factor, not so much.
Huh.
All right, your turn, Jake.
This was my pick for the month, and I chose it because the first time I saw it, it was deeply unsettling to me, and it took me years to watch it again for that very reason. And I found it easier to watch the second time around, but it still is a deeply unsettling movie. I have said several times Darren Aronofsky is a master of making great films that you never want to watch again. It's part of entertainment value is being moved in any way, and I guess that can include being scared or creeped out or unnerved. And if you look at it that way, then it could be considered a highly entertaining film. I really have a hard time with it. I would say, in a purely technical merit, this is easily one of the best films we watched last year. But I don't want to see it again anytime soon. So it's hard to rate, but I'm going to go with one of the best.
All right.
Again, part of that has to do with the language of what you've chosen for our categories, though.
Well, think of it then, if it makes it easier, I just put that as a subtext. You could always rank it as a 1 to 5, but even that could be subjective.
Right.
That's the problem with the thing. But in any case, moving on. Tammy, your thoughts on Black Swan?
I liked it. I'd give it a solid.
Okay.
Okay.
Dave?
I would not call this movie scary in the least, but I would call it solid because Darren Aronofsky. This is definitely, I think, the film that he began to make a name for himself.
I'd consider what was
Requiem for a Dream and
Requiem for a Dream.
I'd
heard about Pie when I was still in high school.
I did not like that one, though. I did see its artistic value.
Yeah.
I didn't see the one Pie. I haven't seen Pie yet.
Yeah. And I think The Wrestler came out before this. The Wrestler was a big hit.
But yeah, Pie is the film that'll give you a migraine to watch.
Yes, it will.
And The Fountain, I saw that one in the theaters. And Mother.
Yeah.
I think those two.
Mother was the one that brought me in on this channel.
But
Mother annoyed me. Like, I got the allegory like right front loaded in my face. But I recognized it right away, and it was just I was just kind of rolling my eyes that whole time. Get it? It's like, do you know what this is supposed to mean? It's like, yeah, I do. You're not that clever.
So how about Black Swan, Dustin? What would you rate?
Black Swan is good. It's just it's depressing. Like the ending upset me.
That film upsets a lot of people. So, but Aronofsky is good at upsetting people.
Yes.
So what would you rate it on that?
I would rate it solid. Just challenging, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just basically a solid. Yep, full on solid. All right, don't even have to move it. St. Francisville Experiment. St. Francisville Experiment was basically a haunted house film at its source. I like haunted house films. This one, the only issue I had with St. Francisville was the pacing was a problem. And with that being said, I still thought it was as I say. I need to watch it again, and maybe with repeated watching, it'll move up. But for the first watching, is
Yeah, it was all right. It was, I had no strong feelings one way or another, so it's okay. It works for me.
I admit, I also came into it with very interesting expectations because I was like, Dave picked this for a film that was scary.
Yeah, now that
Okay,
did
but that
puzzle
was
me.
like
I kept
20
waiting
some
for
years
it.
ago.
Okay. All right.
Like chintzy ass like found footage thing we saw.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would you rate it, Dustin?
Never watch.
Likely will never watch.
Okay,
All right.
let's
I
put it
think
this way.
I think I was nicer to it at the time, but in retrospect, it's like, yeah, like it's disposable.
Okay.
Oh,
Uh,
Dave?
go to Tammy first.
Tammy.
Yeah. No offense, son. I probably won't watch this again. It really
That's
didn't do
fine.
it. It didn't do anything for me.
I probably won't watch it again myself because going into it, I remembered it being scarier than I thought it was. And now as an adult, since I saw it years ago, and the fact that I always thought that it was kind of cool that the subspecies director was behind it.
Maybe this is one of those it was better left in the past so that your memories could lift it up.
Okay, for some reason, I remember it freaking me out like the first time I saw it, like like literally. But I've seen a lot of shit since then, so I would put this like in between the green and being okay.
Okay.
So, next up is what was it?
Strangelands, I think it was.
Strangeland, yes. Strangeland was disturbing on many levels, but it was also it also had a very iconic villain. I'm really conflicted about it as it being in between okay and solid. I'm probably going to put it in okay, but just barely.
Okay.
All right, Jacob.
No conflicts here. I'll never watch it again.
I understand why. All right, Tammy.
I am glad I saw it once, but I'll never watch it again.
I don't care if I watch it again or not, even though I picked it. But I picked it because of the theme of the month.
Yeah,
Right.
I was going to say it was more of a difficulty watching it because of that. Dave?
I'm gonna put it as a solid film.
Oh.
Partially because it is the weirdest thing to see Dee Snider in the role of a villain, where he can look like this pathetic looking geek, and then also look like the freakiest dude that you could ever see. And I remember there was a lot of hype for this movie when it came out.
So, what about you, Dustin?
I was really hostile to it at the time, because it's kind of the area of horror that kind of like I don't find very fun, like the kind of like torture, genital mutilation stuff. Like I'm not do not like that. So I think I was initially really hostile to it. I mean, it's good that I've seen it at least once, so that when people somewhat frequently talk about, oh, Dee Snider's Strangeland, that does come up in discussions of films from the 2000s, and so it's good that I saw it for that. But for the most part, it's like I'll only watch this if I have to for something kind of like our show. That was the only reason I really wanted to go back into it. I mean, I did want to revisit it to see if, maybe my mind has changed on it, but no, it was just a little too gross still. So
I totally agree. That's part of the reason I picked it. My mind has not changed on it at all either.
Yeah, so we'll likely never watch again. Like there hasn't been anything like I've hated enough that's like, I wish I hadn't seen that. Or like, at least the stuff we pick has some value for the most part.
Right.
Well, 2.6, just barely getting to okay.
Really?
Yeah, because remember, Dave gave it like a high rating.
Yeah, we had 3 at that bottom rating. Okay. Sounds
So
good.
next up, last shift.
Mm.
I still really like this movie. It's still one of the only movies in recent times that has freaked me out. It doesn't now, but that's because I watched it. But first time I watched it definitely freaked me out, and I will actually give it one of the best. To me, it's one of the best horror movies, one of the best modern horror movies, in my opinion. I like supernatural ones, and this one still keeps me in that freaked out mood a little bit, but it's just on the edges now. Jake.
This one's really hard for me to rate because on the one hand, it's very competently made. It is a very effective creep fest. Like, it will put you on edge, and I give it props for that. And it's interesting. It's intriguing. But I don't particularly like it. And I don't know that I have. I've seen it twice now, and that's probably enough for me. So I'm going to go with okay, but like I said, it's one of those ones where it's kind of hard for me to give it an easy ranking.
Who knows? Maybe another Halloween we end up watching it again.
Oh, jeez.
All right, Tammy.
I found it neat. I liked, I like movies like that. So I'll do a solid.
All right, so +4. Dave?
I'm going to give this movie a solid 2. I really like the camera angles when it came down to the presentation of the cult members and whatnot. So, yeah, solid.
It surprised me that they remade it so soon after it came out.
Oh, that remake was horrible.
How about you, Dustin? What are your thoughts?
I think, like I said in our show on that one, that I had seen the poster before and had always been curious about it, and I think it mostly let me down. But it was significantly better than I expected it to be, and it kind of turned it around at the end. Like I think I would consider it about the same level of Paranormal Activity. Like I was not impressed by Paranormal Activity, but it was like, yeah, this is okay. That's about where I felt with Last Shift by the time it was over.
Okay, divided by 5, 3.8. So solid. All right, Jaws 2. Jaws 2 is Jaws 2. I will put that in solid because it's a solid enough film. All right, Jake.
Yeah, objectively speaking, it's not a great film, and I probably should rank it lower. But there is a bit of nostalgia for this one. And reading the behind-the-scenes things about how pissed off at everyone Roy Scheider was kind of amused me. So I'm going to go with solid.
All right.
Yeah.
Dave. Not Dave, sorry.
Okay, let me say it this way. It's almost the opposite of Last Shift. Like everything I said about Last Shift, turn it on its head.
All right, Tammy.
I'll go with number 2 because, like you said, the nostalgic and everything. So we'll go with 2.
What was it? What's your rating?
Solid.
Solid? Okay. And Dave?
I'll go with solid. I think the first 3 Jaws films are solid.
All right. And Dustin?
For Jaws 2? One of the best. I really like Jaws 2 because it had a very, very hard task of following up like the best film ever made. And even though it's it does fall short, but it almost was guaranteed to fall short. Like it does such a better job than you would have expected. I think I just kind of give it extra points for effort. with being such a tough thing to follow up. And I mean, it does. I think I have the benefit of having read the novelization, which has a lot of really interesting extra information that makes the story not only make some more sense, but also like more interesting. Like in the book, the whole thing with it's a female shark and it mated with the shark from Jaws, and it's back here 1 year later to like have its pups. Like that's a pretty cool thing in the book, and it's not really implied or touched on very much in the film, but I think that would have added a lot to the story. So having that kind of extra background, I think, makes me give it a bit of an advantage. But then again, it's hard to make an okay sequel that's still fun. So I think I give it points for just, you had the most difficult thing in the world to follow up, and you weren't like bad, like you were acceptable, and if this was just like a standalone shark movie, I think it would be fine. So that's why I'm gonna give it the one of the best.
All right, so it evens out to solid. All right, oversexed rug suckers from Mars. Well, that one is one that I can't, in all good consciousness, give it a solid, even though personally I do really enjoy the film. I just can't do it. It just doesn't. So I'll give it an okay because I do really enjoy the film, and I probably will watch it again. So it's probably a high okay for me.
I probably enjoyed the film more than you, so I'm going to give it a solid.
Oh, Jacob?
Well, very few movies have gotten me so curious based on the title alone and the poster. And very few movies have so unceremoniously dashed those hopes. The first time I saw this, I was actually bored to tears. And it set the bar so low that this time I was able to enjoy it a little more on its own. That being said, it's still a boring, bad movie. And I don't know that I would ever watch it again, but I also don't want to know. I don't know that I want to say I will never watch it again. So I'll give it okay.
On the low end, I guess.
Be generous.
So, Tammy.
I don't think I liked it. I don't think I want to watch it again.
All right. And Dustin, did you watch this one?
Yeah, I saw that one. It was a rough time. There's a couple of okay jokes, but for the most part, it was pretty. It was a challenge to sit through.
So that'd be likely never watch again?
Not likely, no.
Well, I will say we got 95 views on that discussion.
Wow.
So that is at least A+. And it was one less view than our Five Nights at Freddy's conversation. So,
all right, Totally Killer, one of Dustin's two. I was actually very happy to see it. It was on my list to see. I kind of hate seeing one that's only available on streaming and probably never get it physical, but still very good, very enjoyable. Very solid slasher, so I will give it a solid because it's solid. Jake?
I was impressed. I was not sure what to expect, but I found it quite entertaining. I'll give it a really solid.
All right. Tammy?
I think I ended up liking it better than I thought, so I'll give it a solid.
All right. Dave?
I'll give it a solid, although it gave me some Happy Death Day vibes just a little bit. It was still entertaining, so I'll give it a solid.
And Dustin?
One of the best, because like that movie was so good. Like I enjoyed like every minute of it. I think it's one of our kind of new classics that we've been getting here and there over the last 5 years.
And I've been working on trying to get through It's a Wonderful Knife. We've gotten through part of it.
The pacing was different on that, but it wasn't. I think Wonderful Knife is. I don't think it's as good as Totally Killer, but it was fine. It was a little close. It's about as good as Freaky, and Freaky was fine. Like, it didn't melt my brain, but it was fine.
So, and of course that evens it out to a solid. All right, so Five Nights at Freddy's. I admit I was not on for that. I had other things that had to happen on that date, but and it's probably for the best because I would have probably brought the discussion down a bit. This is the first of the films I will actually say I wish I had never seen it in the first place.
Wow.
Because I had such high expectations for it, and the film wasn't for me. It was not a film for me. It's a film for the real fans of it, the tweens that love Five Nights at Freddy's. It was for them. It was not made for me, so technically it's not appropriate on that discussion for me. So that is the short of it as to why I have to say I wish I'd never watched it. I would have rather have just said, that's for them, that's great. I've got my Willy's Wonderland and my banana splits to enjoy in that concept. All right, Jake.
Well, I'm coming at it from a standpoint of I have yet to see either of those movies or have seen or played anything with the game or the comics or whatever. So I pretty much came to it blind, knowing little more than the background of Chuck E. Cheese's and those kind of things. And I don't know, I enjoyed it. I would not put it nearly on the same level as Totally Killer. But honestly, I would say it was a solid film.
All right. Dave.
Go to Tammy first.
Oh, sorry, Tammy, yeah.
I thought it was a solid film. It was. I didn't know anything about like the video game or any of that stuff either, but I'd seen other films that were somewhat similar, and so yeah, solid film.
All right, and Dave.
I'm in the middle because I actually ended up getting the games like a little bit slightly before the discussion. And I was beginning to get into the games, and they're kind of based on jump scares. And there was absolutely almost zero jump scares in the movie.
Oh, that's one of my biggest complaints about it, but yeah. But that's because they wanted to get the age rating down. They wanted to make sure they got to the tween audience.
It's not that I hated it, so I'm going to go with an okay rating.
Dustin?
No, I would give it a very solid because, like, for me, I appreciated that it wasn't just all like stupid ass jump scares. Like, I appreciated that it was trying to really tell you a story, and the games do have a story, even though, according to most complaints I've heard older people say about it, it's like, why is the story like this? It's like because that's the story of the games.
Well, again, it's not
like what.
It's not for them. It's not for the older audience. It is the new Goosebumps. Five Nights is the new Goosebumps.
Yeah, a complaint because you should know something. I don't know how to explain it. I guess very well, but I liked that it wasn't predictable and it had like a real plot. I guess that I'm going to summarize that.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they added stuff to it, but like that's what's going to happen for almost any adaptation of anything that's like a licensed franchise.
Yep.
So a lot of the complaints people I had, I feel, were kind of unfair, realistic.
As I say, my complaint is not in a I wish it was never made type thing, because it was made. It's just not for me. It's not a. It is marketed to the people who really are into the lore of it, and you've got to put it at that age level, because most of the people who love Five Nights at Freddy's are 12 to 14. You cannot market that. You can't really do it in a way that's gory or bloody.
Right.
I mean,
I'll give
The
you that.
glorious thing that was in the film was when the sister, I think, what was chomped into half by one of the machines. You know.
Yeah, that was. I was surprised they got away with that one. But now we're going into Christmas.
Yeah.
So let's get this done. All right, Santa Claus the movie. Great movie, but mainly great because of nostalgia, in my opinion. Because I can't really fairly rate this, because it was one I really loved as a kid, and because so it holds up as one I really love as an adult. So I cannot give it anything less than a solid, but I understand people who would say it was bad, or say that they wish they never watched it. So, Jake, now you're.
I'll definitely not go that far. I, objectively speaking, the film was kind of bad. It was okay at best, but I will admit that John Lithgow's character was hilarious. It was fun to watch. The movie overall is fun to watch. So I'll be generous and say really solid.
Okay. Tammy.
I'll give it a solid.
All right. And I dropped something. All right. But my phone's okay. All right. And Dave.
I'm actually going to put it forward as one of the best.
Oh.
Well, you were the one who chose it. All right. And Dustin.
I thought it was actually pretty good. I was really happy with it. Like I had never seen it before, but somehow I had known the story that it was telling, and I thought that was pretty good. I mean, it gets really weird toward the end, but you know, that's kind of one thing I appreciated about it, because you only have like so much with that particular like material / story. That you could really do, and so having it kind of jump to modern day felt like a good way to kind of fill that out.
All right.
So I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty solid.
Well, with that, I think it stays at solid for that. It's pretty easy math. So let's move on to Santa Jaws. I have no real right to say it's a solid, but I'm going to anyway, because it's a bad movie. It really is, but it's a bad movie I really enjoy, and I want to watch it every year. So I can't not put it as a solid. So there we go.
Well, Santa Jaws was not what I expected. It was not at all what I expected. And for the most part, I mean that in a good way. It was objectively a bad movie, but it was fun. We're not talking Velocipaster levels fun, but we're talking fun. I feel like it can't really go higher than it was okay, but it's like a high okay. You know what I mean?
All right. Tammy?
We were both sick during that period, but we did watch it.
I don't think I'll probably watch it again, though. I thought it was really stupid.
All right.
Whereas
Dave?
I actually had fun with it. I had fun with it. So I'll give it a very high solid.
All right. And Dustin?
I'll give it a high solid too, because it looks like one of those like terrible disposable like crap movies, and then it's actually fun. Like the effects, like they're they're cheap, but they work somehow. It's very aware of what it is and just embraces it,
Right.
and that makes it pretty tolerable. So I don't think I would really call it a bad movie. Like, I don't know, it's a little like bad CGI sharks in that, and it has that awareness, and it just has fun with it. Like, I really like that movie.
Bad CGI sharks.
Yeah, and it's one of those very rare low budget movies that I don't end up hating. So I would definitely give it like a solid, if not one of the best.
All right. So with 3 4s, a 2, and a 3, we get it down to okay, but barely at okay. Very high okay.
Okay.
All right. So, Fat Man. I think Violent Night took the place in my mind of Fat Man because it blew it away in many ways. But Fat Man is still enjoyable to me.
See, I saw Violent Night and I loved it, but I also loved this one in very different ways.
So I give it, like I said, I give it a solid. So now, well, it's the last one of 2023, so we'll go ahead and finish this. Jake.
Fat Man was another one where I wanted so much more, but what I got was still pretty solid. And I watched it twice, and I very much enjoyed it both times. I would definitely say it's a really solid film.
All right. And Tammy?
I will put it as okay.
Okay. And Dave?
I actually will put it as one of the best.
Ooh.
What? All right. Well, and Dustin?
I actually missed it. What was it about?
Mel Gibson is Santa Claus, and a little kid puts a hit out on him. So he and the elves have to defend the North Pole versus this violent assassin. But Santa's also taking out a military contract at the time, so it's also, military men with Santa. It's very kind of gritty and dark with a dark set of humor to it.
I am sad that I missed that. God damn. Like, I thought it was like a Kevin Smith documentary, and I was like, why are we doing
Oh, it was very enjoyable as a movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of the only reason I skipped it, because it's like, I was so sure that was a Kevin Smith. Oh, rude. Damn. Well, I'm gonna have to watch that now, because I did get it from our chat. It's like 40 gigabytes by itself for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fun film. I actually, like I say, I don't think that it's. I think it's well worth a watch if you haven't watched it, especially if you like dark comedies. And that one definitely counts as a dark comedy.
And we talked about this in terms of like Santa themed movies. It was a surprisingly real world approach to the Santa story, which was very interesting and different.
And it is streaming on Peacock if you do that. All right. Well, so this year we actually had a pretty good year for movies.
Yeah.
There were only 2 that were fairly low rated, because even for the most part, I'd say as an average, we did pretty good as far as what we somewhat liked and what we or at least thought were good films versus what we thought were and
let's see, what's the count here? We've got 8 that we said were one of the best, and then there's, what is that, 16, looks like
26,
looks like 30 that it was really solid, and looks like 10 that were it was okay, and then 2 we'll never want to watch again.
Well, it's unlikely that we'll watch those again, but at the same time,
I will definitely be watching Give Me Shelter again, because I have a lot more work to do on that disc, but it will be a while.
Well,
Nice.
it's been a positive year for our movies on this
Yeah,
channel, though.
yeah.
I think for the most part, even the OKs, at least it was somewhat positively received.
Hmm.
Because even then, we had very few that any of us rated. We'll likely never watch again. There were some, but very few of us even then ranked them that low.
Hmm.
So that's good. Maybe next year I'm just going to do a simple 1 to 5, and I'll make it easy for y'all on that. It's still very subjective, but we'll just leave it your internal, what you consider a 1 to 5. And we'll move quicker. But I think this is a fun little experiment, a good retrospective of the year, and I'm going to save this so that the file will be there so we can see how we ranked things in the year.
Hmm.
And
Good deal.
Dave, you can take it away. I would prefer that we probably either skip outros or
Yeah, let's skip our outros because we've on this channel have done our outros on almost every single episode. So if you don't know us by now, go back to our previous episode. You'll catch who we are, and hopefully you guys have had a very happy New Year. Well, we just kind of wanted to do this a little differently. This is our first time reviewing actually an entire year. So that is a first. So thank you all. Thank you, Dustin, for coming on. I think thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Jake. It's been a pleasure doing all of this with you guys, and the fact that we've lasted this long. So
Yeah.
Yep. And January's holiday month. That is so movies about holidays. The Grinch, the animated Grinch, with that we were going to do at the end of December, is going to be next week's film. It's Tammy's selection. So, once we've got the full selection for the holidays, we'll go after that.
Yep. So hopefully like, share, and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of our thoughts on all our films that we've gone on in the past. And maybe we'll continue to do this next year here on Inside Movies Galore. So thank you. And everyone have a great rest of your year, or great start to your year. So,
good night, everybody. Have a great New Year.
Night, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good night.